Well, thank you everyone so much for coming to this Howick event, Steel Horizons. It's awesome to see so many familiar faces in the crowd and so many new faces as well. Thank you to Adam and the team at Wolf Partners for hosting in this amazing location that we'll get to really explore a little bit later on. Howick is a pioneer in precision light steel roll forming technology. For nearly 50 years, the company's commitment to innovation, particularly in light gauge steel, LGS, also known as cold form steel, precision manufacturing, uncompromising quality, and exemplary customer service has defined the Howick way. As a manufacturer, over 95% of Howick's products are exported overseas from New Zealand, where the bulk of the servicing the construction sector in the US, UK, Canada, Ireland, and the European Union. While the business is global, Howick's home is very much in New Zealand. They are proud to say 100% of their machines are built in their Auckland factory, and that they could tell you the first names of the team who assembled your machine. Combine this with their commitment to support, and you can see why they are so confident of the quality and performance of every Howick machine. Howick has enjoyed consistent growth since day one. It has seen demand increase in the last 5 years or so as the uptake in modern construction methods has exploded to meet the global bottleneck for affordable, quality housing with more efficient, sustainable ways of building. So how about we give a big round of applause to the team at Howick. And now let's meet them. So the team from New Zealand, happy to introduce Nick Coubray, CEO of Howick Group, Hamish Coubray, Director of the Howick Group, Dion Anderson, Head of Global Sales, the amazing Cindy Posimani, Head of Global Marketing and Export, Warren Farr, General Manager of Central Steel Framing and Chief Innovator of Excalibur, and the people who make it all happen here in the good US of A. We have Tom Reed, Regional Manager, and J.D. Standridge. Excellent. So now I'd like to pass it over to Nick, followed by Cindy.
Thanks for coming, everyone. It's really great to have so many people come and all the sort of good minds in the same building thinking about how we move construction forward. We're really fortunate to have partners like Wolf that are partners and customers who let us use these sorts of facilities to show you what can be done. Enjoy the presentations, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask anyone anything. It's kind of a great venue to talk about different things. So yeah, we'll get on to it, and Cindy will follow up with a welcome in a bit more detail, and I'll present to you later on.
Welcome, everyone. Really happy to see all of you here, and thank you, Jen, for being our MC. We're so grateful. Jen is the powerhouse behind Dave Cooper Live, and of course, we have Dave here, the two power couple, being part of our event. It's fantastic. Now, there are a few more people we'd like to thank, and of course, Adam Wolf and his team, and this wonderful facility. Thank you very much for allowing us to host our event here. Our guest speakers, without which this event wouldn't happen. We're privileged to have you contribute your time, your effort, your knowledge. I know for some of you, you have such busy lives. Taking time out to come here is a big deal. So really grateful that you are here. Our sponsors. This year, we've started a sponsorship program to make our event bigger and better, and we're very grateful to all of you, to StrucSoft, to Aerosmith Fastening, to Simpson Strong Tie, and Argos / Vertex Systems. They did not hesitate to say yes when we approached them, so we're really grateful that you're so supportive of our program. You will experience a tasting menu of unique perspectives and tested methodologies from some of the most innovative minds that we have in visionaries and industry experts. As us Kiwis always say, learn heaps, socialize heaps, and have heaps of fun. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, Cindy. And with that, we'd like to introduce and thank the sponsors once again and give them an opportunity to come share a little bit about what they do. So I'd like to invite Spencer Jesse to the podium from Aerosmith Fastening Systems.
My name is Spencer Jesse with Aerosmith Fastening Systems. I'm here with my colleague Howard Good. On behalf of Aerosmith Fastening, the entire team, we'd like to thank Howick for our long-term relationship with them. We have the pleasure of working with them across the globe on a number of projects. And obviously, we want to thank our friends at Wolf Partners We've worked with them, helping them grow, and we really cherish that relationship also. I've had the pleasure of attending Steel Horizons last year in Boston. It was a fantastic event. I walked away really enthused about where this industry is going and what it means to humanity as we move how we find housing for people moving forward. I'm sure that this year will be no different, and I hope you walked away as enthused as I was last year. Aerosmith, we're producers of high-quality drive pins. We produce drive pins for light gauge steel attachment. We're produced in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are fortunate to have partners across the globe using our pins to attach materials into light gauge steel. We also are providers of mechanical and chemical anchors for our U.S. and Canadian partners. And you might say we're kind of driven to be simply faster. That at the end of the day, that's the only value we bring to our partners is speed to fasten. As opposed to standing up here the entire time, because as you know, I could probably bore you to death. We thankfully created a small video.
The keys to the performance of the technology are the design of the pin and the driving system. Pins are made of special grades of steel that are hardened with a unique heat treating process, making them extremely strong. When driven into steel with the proper pneumatic tool, their ballistic shape point uniformly pierces the steel instead of drilling it out or tearing it like a common nail. The displaced steel rebounds around the pin to create a strong compressive force on the shank of the fastener. This force, working in conjunction with a specific pin knurling pattern designed for the steel being joined, creates a high friction force that prohibits withdrawal of the fastener from the steel.
So this is basically a facility that uses Howick in Australia for the secondary fixing. This is called plate lentils. You guys are familiar with plate lentils and overseas mostly. Again, it's just so very quick. I can't make it any fancier. This guy goes really quick. That's 1.1/8 plywood to 14 gauge steel, by the way. And then we have a new product. It's an insulation product that we put up 1 to 8 inch insulation materials into masonry and light gauge steel. I'd like to thank you for your time. If you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, or we'll be back in the back after this presentation. Thank you for your investment of your time.
Next, I'd like to invite Jonathan Fox from Argos Systems, who also will be providing lunch today. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you, Howick and Wolf Partners, for hosting this exciting event. So, yep, we're Argos Systems. Argos, together with Vertex Systems, we provide the Vertex BD software. So you can do complete architectural design right in Vertex from scratch, or you can import a CAD file and trace over it, or you can import an IFC file from another 3D modeling software like Revit. As you build up the model, you're applying framing rules. You can generate the framing parts, and it just follows those rules and populates the framing layout. Once you have all the final detailing done, it'll automatically generate your shop drawings, cut lists, material reports, and then, of course, export to the Howick roll forming machines. We also have a nice, a new panel stacking tool, so you can help set your sequencing for shipping and manufacturing. So it's a very powerful, customizable framing engine. You can modify the framing tools as, to a high level of degree. You can use any manufacturer's materials. It's an open system. You're definitely cutting drafting time, at least 50%, probably more, because it's automatically creating all those shop drawings that, if you're doing that with CAD, takes forever. If you get everything planned out in your 3D model, you're definitely going to be reducing your material waste and eliminating production errors, so you can catch those things before it happens in the field. Vertex BD is a standalone Windows application, so you don't need additional software to run it. And we do have a 14-day free trial, so you're all welcome to go to argos.com and give it a shot. We also have a FAQ page, so if you want to get some more information, we have a lot of information available on that FAQ page, or you can come find me floating around here today. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, next up is Mr. Andrew Beasley from Simpson Strong Tie, and we need to thank them for providing coffee and breakfast, getting us all juiced up and ready for the day.
Hey everyone, great to see you. Really excited to meet everybody today. My name is Andrew Beasley with Simpson Strong Tie, and I'd like to thank Howick. We really appreciate the partnership, and it's really exciting to see where the industry's going. And so I just want to share with you guys a couple things on our side, and again, hope to be able to talk with you as we're going throughout the day and talk about some of the things that are going on and maybe how we can help. So a few things with Simpson. We actually, you may know this, we started a manufacturing division a couple years ago to focus on supporting manufacturers. So those manufacturers in the room, love to talk to you about that. Obviously, our history's been in the commercial and residential construction space, but this manufacturing division, our OEM division, really is going to bring some additional things to the table. Some specific resources I wanted to point out. Got a lot of engineers, a lot of reps around the country. So if there's anything specific that we can help you with, please let me know. I can try to connect you guys with your local rep, et cetera. Another thing is, as we're seeing the industry progress, there's a lot of opportunity for R&D. So if there's certain things that you guys are working on or running across, love to talk to you guys about that, right? We get into doing custom clips, custom fasteners, things like that. So let us know how we can help in that regard. A few other things is if they're for testing, right? So as you're looking at those type of designs, like we have testing labs around the country. So love to make sure that you guys have access to those as well. A couple updates on our side too, from a product standpoint. On the top left, you guys may know this, we now have a collated system, our quick drive system that actually fits into the Howick dimple, and obviously the fastener that goes with that. We're also working on a design right now that has a sharp point. So some things there that we're super excited about in the partnership with Howick and how that fits in. So a couple other things, our panel hoist clip is fairly new. So if you're hoisting panels, something that can really help save time, et cetera. And then I've got just kind of an assortment here of some of the different connectors that really fit into these conversations. A lot of people think of us as a wood. They still think of us as Simpson being a wood-based company. Man, there's so much steel, right, that we deal with in our line. If you need literature, if you need things like that, there's a lot that we work with there. So last thing is our design software. If you haven't had a chance to check out our CFS design software, I'd love to chat with you about that too. So anyway, just wanted to kind of give you guys some high points, but at the end of the day, looking forward to meeting with you and talking more about the industry and things that are happening and how we can support you guys. So thanks again so much.
Okay, next up is Brandon Ionata from StrucSoft Graitec, and thank you in advance, Brandon, for all the libations that we'll be enjoying later.
Hi, everyone. So first, I'd like to thank Howick for the opportunity to sponsor this event. Big round of applause to Cindy and her team for tirelessly working to get this off the ground. I know it's a lot of work from you, so thank you, team. So at StrucSoft, we're a software company, essentially one of the software partners that you'll hear a little bit about today at the event. We've been working with the Howick team for well over a decade now. We actually got our start back in the early 90s selling and developing software, and at our core, we are still a software developer, not so much a software vendor. We were acquired about 3 years ago by the Graitec group. We're now 700 strong globally, 700 people strong globally, and we maintain our office a little bit north of here in Montreal, Quebec, is where we're based. Our core product is MWF. I think in speaking with some of you this morning, a lot of people are aware of who we are and what we do.
Introducing MWF, a leading digital framing solution that unlocks the full potential of Revit. Transform Revit into a powerful automation and manufacturing tool by leveraging MWF's built-in intelligence to accelerate the design and fabrication of light gauge steel and wood framing, all inside the Autodesk Revit environment. Accelerate the modeling of walls, floors, and more in timber and cold-formed steel. Improve coordination between architectural, structural, and MEP teams. Easily generate fully dimensioned shop drawings, complete with cut lists and bill of materials to feed manufacturing teams. With MWF, you can easily create data-rich models to use in the production of CNC output and product delivery schedules, using your Revit project as a direct link to your manufacturing equipment. MWF is the solution of choice for Revit users working on timber or cold-formed steel projects. Relied upon by engineers, architects, contractors, and vertically integrated design build firms throughout the world. Try MWF today.
Great. So, I mean, that pretty much explains it. The big differentiator between us and some of our competitors is the fact that we are a Revit application. So we do require Revit to run, but that is it's also a benefit because we are not doing any importing or exporting of any of the really important data that is necessary to run some of these awesome machines that the Howick team produces. So massive differentiator for us. And, you know, as we've evolved as a company, our software has evolved as well. And now we're pushing the boundaries of what we can do on the manufacturing front. That's really our biggest focus, is being that one-stop shop for manufacturers to be able to come to us, you know, put a solution in place and even customize that solution for whatever it is that you may build. So very, very quick. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll pass the mic off. Thank you very much.
Now I have the pleasure of introducing Adam Wolf, the founding principal of Wolf Partners, a vertically integrated development firm based in Tampa, Florida. Adam founded Wolf Partners with a vision of adopting a holistic approach to design and development, integrating his experience in structural engineering, architecture, and development into a cohesive, multidisciplinary method for delivering projects. Since the firm's inception in 2020, Adam and his team have specialized in urban infill multifamily development, utilizing prefabricated light gauge steel construction to provide site-specific design solutions without compromising on quality, speed, or design expression. Adam is a licensed architect holding a bachelor's degree in computer graphics technology from Purdue University and a master's degree in architecture from the Illinois Institute of Technology. Before founding Wolf Partners, his career spanned multiple disciplines, including structural engineering, architecture, and development. In each field, he leveraged parametric solutions to better understand the variables impacting the final product and to make processes more repeatable and efficient. And as a Division I football player, his athletic ability, his design and engineering background are all contributing to the success of Wolf Partners.
Thank you all for being here. Funny story about Purdue. I was kindly asked to switch majors to maintain eligibility, and I ended up in computer graphics with a focus on construction graphics, and my first class was the first release of Revit. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I had no idea then that it was going to take up the next 15 years of my life, but here we are. The 3D architectural model that we produce as architects, pretty much every project has behind it a Revit model, and certainly every project I've worked on in my career has that, and it's basically a digital twin of what's to be built in the real world. It's packed, it's very robust, it's got all the detail, all the forethought, all the clash detection, pre-construction coordination embedded into this model. And inevitably, we as architects take a lot of time and care to get that right. And ultimately, it does get sliced into 2D drawings. And throughout my career, I always felt that there was something lost in translation, going from this one-to-one digital twin, and then only for it to be sliced into a standard set of construction documents that sometimes get misinterpreted on site, sometimes don't get looked at on site. And we set out to figure out a way to take that 3D, highly refined, highly robust digital model and actually translate it from the digital realm to the physical in a way that we weren't going to be losing our ability to create novel design expressions for each specific project. And for us, we wanted to create a solution, a prefabricated solution that wasn't contingent upon a repeatable output, or a modular expression, but rather consider all the building elements and components as their own set of modules that we can reconfigure so we can deliver architectural solutions to each site given the unique characteristics of that site. So here at Wolf Partners, we are a development firm, an architecture practice, and a fabrication facility rolled into one with the idea in mind to create that kind of mass customization across our projects. Here we have our amazing team. They're over here, most of them, and it's an interdisciplinary team comprised of architects, interior designers, fabrication specialists, our capital partners, land acquisition and sales team, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that we're going to share with you today and the work that they've produced and all the effort that they've put in to get us to where we are from where we started. Doing this urban infill multifamily development really starts with analyzing the site. And I know this is kind of development 101, but when we look at a site, we really only have control over a certain set of variables. That being, what are we going to pay for the land? How many units are we going to put on it? What size are those units going to be? And to a certain degree, what it's going to cost to build. Unlike multifamily or apartments where you establish a unit mix or single-family home development, it's critical that we think of these sites as a one-off. And a lot of times the viability of a development project relies on how creative can we get with the zoning configuration, the plan development, and oftentimes we have to rely on coming up with a new unit design for each site so that we can go forward. And in doing so, I'm going to run through some of our site plans, and you can see each project is configured quite differently based on the unique conditions of the site, and we'll get into some of these later. But the intent is that we can respond appropriately in scale and context to each one of these development sites and build that 3D digital model, that digital twin, but then run through a standardized fabrication process with the Howick machines so that we can create unique architectures across projects that are very contextual and very appropriate in scale and materiality and style for each given site. And so what you end up with is a couple of our completed projects here that have different architectural styles, very much in keeping with what's adjacent in their neighborhoods and surrounding areas, and some of them quite different from others. And so the idea of this mass customization is we take that site-driven development, configure what the site plan as it needs to make that development pro forma work, but also serve the community best. All that design stuff happens over here. Once it crosses that wall into our fabrication shop, that process doesn't change. It's kind of agnostic to what the final project will be in terms of style, context, building type. But we're working on standardizing that fabrication process as a means to maintain creativity and architectural expression across our projects. So a little bit of our timeline, we started back in 2020, and the idea was that we needed to kind of build a project pipeline to figure out this system. It's a new system to us, and before offering it to the market at large, we wanted to scrape our knees and figure out all the inherent problems that we don't even know yet before we get to that point. And so we spent the first 18 months or so acquiring land, going to neighborhood meetings, going to city council hearings, rezoning, all with the intent of finally getting to the point where we can get into production. And we tried to time our machine orders from Howick with our first permit being issued, and we got it wrong, as happens. So we started making furniture after we got our machines. So the first thing we rolled was this conference table. We were pretty pumped about it. And then we thought, surely permits are going to be issued. Didn't happen, so we made a reception desk. And then we really started running out of ideas, so we made a logo wall. But finally, we had our first project permit issued here. It's a 9-unit deal in Tampa Heights, consisting of 2 unit types. And here's the time lapse of that production. Which are all 3 stories, for sale townhomes. And here behind us, you can see the mock-up that we built, trying to solve that mansard truss and a couple of other key details there. So there's in production, and there's the final photo. That was completed about a year ago, and a shot of the interiors. Next project is a 7-unit project in Hyde Park, and if you don't know, Hyde Park is one of probably the most affluent neighborhoods and desirable neighborhoods in Tampa, and it called for a much different design response. We could have put 9 of that oak unit type here, but we thought that decreasing the unit count and offering a larger product would be more appropriate for this neighborhood. And then it's also in the historic district of Hyde Park, so there was a whole extra set of review, and so we landed on this kind of modern take on Mediterranean. We designed that kind of canted arch without really knowing how to fabricate it, so that was a unique design challenge. Within those 7 units, there are 3 unique unit types as a means to just have a more diverse offering to the public. Here's the entry foyer, the living room, double height living room, kitchen. We have a lofted area up there above the living room, the master bath, and finally the framing model. This was by far the first project. The oak framing model was quite complex. This one even had more complexity. As you can see here, we had to build that mock-up of the archways to try to come up with a way to get that double curving surface out of standard stick parts. And so we built those arches in 2 pieces here in the shop, delivered them to the site. And we're proud of how this turned out, but I think that it might have looked cooler before we put sheathing on it for a little bit. And we've got a time lapse of that. Our framing crew consisted of 5 framers, 1 foreman included in that 5. And it's about 23,000 gross square feet that they were able to build. So they did it in 70 working days to top out fully sheathed. The entire project from start to finish was about 16 months. And here you have some photos of the completed project. It was just completed about 2 months ago. One of our upcoming projects is 80 units in Beach Park, and I'd like to share, this is snippets of our presentation, our second presentation to the Neighborhood Association. This project is interesting in that that parcel had been before City Council 3 times prior by 3 different developers. Each time they didn't get the support of the Neighborhood Association. So our first order of business, as we often do, is to go talk to the neighborhood and figure out what their concerns are, what their desires are, and what they'd like to see on that site, and try to cater to that community and really make a positive impact rather than kind of thrust our own intent on a project. After our first meeting, we reduced the unit count from 87 to 80. We increased the setbacks. They were very concerned about privacy along this east perimeter. Reconfigured the buildings to create a less dense total site, increased the green space. We have 6 different unit types across this project. All the perimeter is the 3-story product, and then in the interior is the 4-story product. In order to maintain the existing neighbors' privacy, we oriented the rooftop balconies to have views away from the existing homes so we could be as light of an impact on their existing conditions as possible. Added extra parking that wasn't required, landscape buffers. Again, the neighbors to the east were very concerned about having new 3-story buildings overlooking into their backyards. And so we coordinated our architecture with clerestory windows to kind of block those view corridors, both on the second floor and on the third, by recessing that bedroom, elevating a parapet, so that those existing homeowners can maintain their privacy. And after having worked with this association, they came in full support at City Council, and we were able to move forward. And here's a few of the renderings of that project, slated to start beginning of Q2 2025. And Palm Park South is on South MacDill, just on the southern tip by the Air Force Base. This project, or this site plan, was driven by grand trees, if you can believe it. The neighborhood association was very concerned that a lot of developers were coming in and basically decimating their existing forests. And they said, we will not support your project if you touch the trees. And said, okay, we won't. And that led to a different site plan and arrangement that we wouldn't have otherwise probably organically chosen. But with those constraints came some creativity. So we have this staggered building type. And once we kind of offset each building from one another, we realized that we were so far set back to stay away from the trees, but we still had a little bit of room. So we decided to take each unit sequentially and increase the length where we had it by a 16-inch standard joist or stud bay in an area that wouldn't be impactful to the overall, coordination of bathrooms and things like that. One last project to touch on, the Motor Enclave. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's just outside of town. It's best described as a country club for car enthusiasts. So you can buy car condos and store whatever types of exotic cars you have. There's a 1.8-mile racetrack associated with it. There's a dirt track behind. And we were approached by the developer who had a pool bar and grill slated to be designed out of shipping containers. They utilize shipping containers in some of the site. It was going to be too costly for them, so they said, can you redo this out of your system? We said, surely, but those dimensions weren't really right for the program that was going to be contained within them, so we decided to combine both the bathroom and back of house with the bar, grill, and laundry area, but still maintain that same kind of shipping container aesthetic with a slight carve out. And Scott Mitchell, who you're going to be hearing from next, which is going to be a fantastic presentation, I'm sure, was gracious enough to work with us to come up with this ceiling expression. We wanted to kind of emulate the movement and flow of cars racing around a track. And so Scott helped us use his stud finder software to create this design expression. And we needed to tie it somehow to the actual site. So we took the curvature of the first turn of that racetrack and basically projected it up onto the ceiling to become the apex of those trusses. So there was some relation to the site, and it wasn't just somewhat arbitrary, cool expression. And here we have that under construction and the completed project. So I'm about to wrap up, but I wanted to share this. When we had this idea back in 2020, this was one of our pitch deck slides of taking unique design solutions, a standardized fabrication process into the built product. Those circles and processes are blank for a reason, because we did not know what the projects were going to be. We didn't know how to figure out the process, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to build those projects. It was just kind of a pipe dream at that time, but we had a great family investment to come in that had experience in the manufacturing space. They're unable to be here today, unfortunately. We surely haven't figured it all out. We're still working the kinks out, but we've got to do some really exciting projects. We do have a process that is working for the most part, and we've built some multifamily, we've built some townhomes, and the last thing that we have is a new single family coming on board. It's in the design phase right now, but we'll be starting that this year as well. Thank you very much. Do you have questions?
What was the learning curve, you know?
So we had kind of our fabrication side working with Howick, getting up to speed on the machines, and they've been absolutely fantastic with that. And then we worked with Jonathan Fox at Argos and Vertex PD. And the learning curve is to get the software working out of the box, good to go, to then make sure that it's customized to fit all of our needs. We spent some time developing those wall types and then translating the structural engineering drawings to the architectural model and making sure that we had everything in the right spot. It was about a 2-month process before we actually hit print and started going on site, but since then, Jonathan and his team have been working to continue to develop our standard methods of practice. And right now we've got a pretty good library of, typical details and what not to do's, also what to do's. But that's ever evolving, and we're always trying to keep building on that repertoire of, knowledge that we've accrued. Okay, that's a great question. We looked at pretty much everything out there. We even looked at other methods like, SIPs or 3D printed concrete. The idea first was that breaking down a building into its kit of parts, meaning the framing elements, and being able to wield those and reconfigure those in a manner that we can maintain that agility in design, both in building type and style. But then the real thing that was the winner for us with Howick was that you can communicate with them from multiple software platforms, and we wanted to not have our potential for innovation kind of stifled or encumbered by having to communicate through one means with the machines. And so we've been able to use the Vertex PD, we've been able to use Stud Finder, and for us that was the real winning ticket, so that we could try to innovate as much as possible. The question was, why did we choose these specific models of machines? Yeah. We wanted to stick with the standard residential dimensions so that the follow-on trades would not be so foreign. So the 5600s were definitely the choice. And then we were a little bit hesitant to use those to create trusses as well. And we saw the 7800 in the joist machine and all the efficiencies that comes with that, the inherent lack of potential for squeaking. We thought that there might be too many connections on those standard trusses. And then also just the depth of the plenum space that you're able to get. There's efficiencies to be gained there. And so that was kind of the intent, that we could also achieve better spans, more cantilevers, things like that with the solid joist. Yeah, so when we started, we actually were the contractor on these projects as well. We've since pivoted to utilize third-party contractors, specifically as we scale into these larger projects. The scaling a construction practice from a 10-unit deal to an 80-unit deal is daunting, to say the least. Our capital partners have experience in the manufacturing, the window manufacturing space, and that's what they came from for the last 20 years, so they brought a lot of know-how. And then our COO, Jason, had a lot of experience with the same kind of window manufacturing, so bringing in those crucial roles, because I certainly don't have experience in that area, was very pivotal for us to be able to move fast and accurately.
I'd like to introduce Scott Mitchell. He's the founder and CEO of Stud.io, a computational construction company. Scott works to bridge Stud.io's software development with its project consulting, enabling some of the most complex projects being built today. Before founding Stud.io, Scott worked as a software engineer at Autodesk as part of the AEC Generative Design Group. While working there, he had access to Howick roll forming machine, which he experimented with in his free time before ultimately leaving to focus on the development of Stud.io full-time. Scott studies and practices film, music, architecture, and computer science, in other words, making things. He enjoys composing for the guitar, producing videos and animations, and experimenting with software development and fabrication research. For the past several years, he and his wife Brianna, their son James, their daughter Frankie, and their golden retriever Lou have lived a modern nomadic lifestyle, living in various cities like Boston, Laguna Beach, Austin, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Scott is from, and that's where they currently live. So if you haven't noticed, Scott is a bit of a Renaissance man. He's a lifelong learner and a terrific resource for always asking, what if? Scott.
Well, thank you all very much for being here today. I am excited to be at my third Steel Horizons. And what I want to talk about today is the ideas of simple and complex in construction. And what do we mean by that? So here you can see a range of stuff that we've built with our software, a wide variety of things. So if you're not familiar with Stud.io, we got started and our bread and butter has been these complex projects. I'm going to show you an example of that. But there's a lot we've learned about process working on these complex projects that we're now shifting focus to what we can do for 99% of projects that are getting built that don't look like crazy. So when we talk about complex projects, we generally mean complex geometry. So a lot of the projects that we've gotten brought into, they are entirely bespoke geometry. They're going to need a ton of custom detailing, and we develop systems and processes to automate the fabrication, assembly, the interaction with other building components. These are laser cut steel ribs, which are going to come back in a second. Making sure that all the alignment holes are generated by the machines between different parts, and then also making sure there's an efficient install process in place as well. So that's what complex looks like. When we talk about simple, I think what we really mean is most buildings where in terms of the framing, you want to just automatically populate framing across your project, and then you want that project or that framing to automatically adapt to design changes and coordination as the project progresses. So that's what we mean when we talk about simple and complex. And where I want to arrive at in this talk is that maybe it doesn't make sense to call projects simple because maybe inherently construction is just complex. And instead, I think it makes more sense to think about simple and complex processes. But we've really spent a lot of time thinking about process, and we have to sort of reinvent process for every project for these highly bespoke projects. So I want to go through an example of that. This is this museum in Los Angeles. This thing has been under construction for 5+ years at this point. Actually, the very first project that Stud.io ever worked on was this project, but we were called back in last year because they had this scope on the roof that was projected to go like a year beyond schedule. So they wanted to see if there was a more efficient system they could use to get this thing done in time for the building to open. So we're going to look at the roof ribbon, which is this thing that undulates and goes around the whole building. There are 195 unique panels in the ribbon, all of them a different shape. Every single stud, I think there's tens of thousands of different studs coming off the Howick machine, and also ribs off a laser cutter. It's like 15 engineering types. You can see the variation in geometry between all these types. So we want to come up with a process that's going to automatically generate all the framing, automatically generate all the steel ribs, make sure they're all connected together, and make sure this thing's going to get installed on site and make exactly what the architect designed. And we got to do it fast. What this system looks like is we start with what we call the primary frames. So if you're familiar with Howick construction, this is like a pretty typical thing. This is a planar frame, although the geometry looks a little bit unique. So each one of these primary frames was a different shape. And then we have what we call the secondary frames, attach a primary frame to the next primary frame, basically. And every single frame has alignment holes to the next one. So you just bring two frames together, line up the holes, put a screw in it, and this thing takes on the exact shape that's in the model, which is super important because the Howick frame ends up being sort of like a jig for these laser cut ribs. So there's holes laser cut into the ribs, there's holes punched on the Howick, and those ribs just kind of go and it's screwed into the framing. And then we bring in what we call secondary ribs that just slot into the primary ribs and generate the finished shape of this in a high resolution with those steel ribs. So that's what a finished panel looks like in the shop, panel frame, I should say. And when we get on site, we want to think about the install process as well. So the same time the panels are being fabricated, we installed these, what we call the rails. So these are also digitally fabricated, so we control the design process for a tube laser to cut all these out. We get all those installed on site, and then we use robotic layout to identify points on the rails and just set the panels down, line up the points, and that thing's going to be in the exact right place. And it worked. Like this is a culmination of years of thinking about how to really efficiently take an architect's geometry, get it built, and get it installed to match perfectly. So we were held to an 1/8" tolerance on this, which we were able to meet, which is pretty crazy given the geometry that we're looking at. And I think most importantly, we were able to get this system installed in about 6 months sooner than the original system was projected to take. So after they get all these panel frames installed, they put a mesh on that, and they come back and put the plaster on. And it looks pretty cool. I think this building's supposed to open next year, I believe. So this is like the first project we ever did, and also one of the most recent. And increase in our efficiency from design to fabrication from the first to this most recent scope is kind of crazy, and it's because we think incessantly about process. So when we get started on a process, we think very carefully about how information is going to flow through the project. So we start with information from an architect. We have design surface. We have the planes that they're going to divide up the surface into panels. So we use that to divide up, to generate the single panel surface. From the joint planes, we generate these primary structural planes. Those primary structural planes plus the surface come up with these primary frame extents. Based on engineering details, we generate the secondary frames. We use our stud finder software to generate the axes of all the studs. There are secondary planes for the ribs. We use those to generate the axes of the ribs, so just lines basically. And then we use our stud finder software. It takes an analytical model and it automatically generates all the fabrication information for the ribs and the studs. This is a repeatable process. So you plug in different inputs, you get the outputs. So 195 panels went through this process. It's an automated thing. You get back engineering information. We get back the files for the Howick. We get back drawings to assemble the Howick, laser cut files for the ribs. So I think the super important thing that I want to stress is that when we work on a project, we don't work on the project, we work on a process that's going to work on the project for us. So yeah, we could run this in 195 panels through this and just get different outputs. You can see the variation that's produced. And these are not just models, that is all the fabrication information and assembly information to get that built. I think this focus on process over projects is the engine that has propelled Stud.io. So we have two sides of the business, and we're sort of unique in this way that we develop and license software. We also work really closely with our clients and get deeply involved on projects. And we have a ton of ideas for things we want to do with the software. And every project is an opportunity to develop that idea, test it on a project. Through the course of a project, we come to find out if ideas are good, if there's parts of an idea that need refinement, if we need to improve the software in some way. A lot of ideas lead to other ideas. So that feeds back into the software. And any investment in the software and in the processes benefits not just the current project, but the one after it, all of the ones after it. So we've built up this software and this understanding of how to build processes that's just increasingly efficient, particularly for these complex projects. But a couple years ago, we decided, we've done a lot of these kind of complex projects. That's like a small fraction of the buildings that are being built today. We want to help propel the entire industry forward. So we've very intentionally been developing software and working on projects for simple construction. And I think that term is maybe not the right term, and we'll get to that. The biggest difference between these types of projects, maybe not the biggest, but one of the big differences is the design budget. So with these high-profile, complex projects, there's an understanding that the design process is going to be custom. It's going to take some time to put that together. With most buildings, you don't have that luxury. So we've been developing tools to make the process, putting together the process and the system for a project really, really quick. And this is our frame generating tool that we call regions and recipes. So a recipe is a set of instructions. And we want it to work for any panel, whatever size and shape it is. So we have some input, which is just the shape of the panel you want to make, and then we have these instructions that we call strategies that do things like add vertical members, you add members around edges, and that gives you your panel. So this is like the most simple recipe you could ever create. You can add conditions to strategies, so you can put different types of profiles on the top and bottom for tracks, on the sides. You can add details to edges, headers, stud packs, things like that. You can change the conditions for where those are going to occur. You can add parallel members in multiple directions, and then you just give it a shape, and it produces the fabrication information for that shape, whatever it is. And it's just a series of very simple steps. And you just kind of plug and play these things. You can rearrange the order. You get different results. One of the more important features is around openings. We typically have a lot of different specific details that need to occur there. So we have what we call an opening strategy, which allows you to put details around openings, jams, headers, trusses, whatever. Those depend on certain conditions. So you can sort of codify the engineering details that need to occur in your framing as a recipe and just let that work for you, whatever the shape is. And again, this is not just producing a model. This is click export. You've got the fabrication information for to go to the machine, and you've got your assembly drawings in a second. One click of a button, whatever the shape is, even if you wanted to build something crazy like that. And this is what it looks like to use it. I recorded myself playing around with one panel for like a minute, and it's fun. It's like playing a game. I think the ability to test out different shapes, test out different details, and get an immediate fabrication model back and see what all the different punches and stuff look like is like fun. It's like super satisfying to play around with. And you probably would never build something like this, but you could. Like at any point, you could literally take what you're screwing around with and go build it on the machine, like an hour. You'd have this thing built, which I think is a really exciting feature for being able to test out new ideas, which is something that we really believe in. So that's one panel, which is cool. But what really matters is when you apply these recipes across a project. So these are some early versions of a floor plan and a roof generator that we put together. You give it what kind of recipe do you want for what kind of walls. You can change the floor plan, change the various parameters of the recipes, automatically have it panelize. And all of these things, again, are fabrication ready at every single point. And then you can feed that into other workflows like stacking and just instantly see what your fabrication, what the actual structure is going to look like for any given input. So that's a fun little animation, but this also has a lot of value for actual projects, in different environments. So in Revit, for example, we can take a whole floor, and in this floor, there's 4 different wall types. We can prescribe a certain recipe for each wall types, and it goes through and generates all the framing for this floor in about 5 minutes. And these are going to be like tracking changes to the walls throughout the project. So you can add a door, and whatever sort of header and jam conditions or opening conditions are prescribed for that recipe, it'll automatically generate those. You can draw in little openings, maybe for an MEP pass-through or something like that. So basically, you don't need to think about framing anymore. You just model your project, and the system that you set up beforehand does its thing. Because we don't want you to modeling framing. We want people to think about designing the systems that are going to model their framing for them. We can run the same thing in Rhino. This is the exact same project. Interestingly, Rhino takes 30 seconds to do it. But there's some of the other interesting things you can do with regions and recipes. You can You change the recipe that a particular frame is run by. Let's say you need to add a header to the bottom of this panel. And a very critical part is that, you also want to manually intervene every once in a while. So you can take one of these things, you can draw in new studs, copy studs around, trim studs, add and edit operations. But like most of all of the connection detailing is just done for you. Our fabrication solver understands what sort of connection detailing you want, and it automatically deploys that. So, super powerful tool that we're really excited about, and we're bringing this to more typical building projects in the 99%. But what I love about it, like one of the maybe more academic ideas here that is run through a lot of what we've developed at Stud.io, is that simple rules can produce complex systems. You just have a simple, 6-step recipe that produces all of the fabrication information for your panel, or for 1,000 panels. It's the same idea if you've seen any of our presentations before. This is how we think about the more 3D bespoke structures that we do, where we give it the connection detailing that we want applied across the project, and our solver automatically figures the rest of it out. We want to play with just the simple components of our system and have intelligent software that actually deploys that across projects. So that's what we want to develop for users, that we want users to be spending their time developing recipes, developing their systems, and let those do the work for them. In other words, we want them to think kind of like we do. We've found that investing most of our time in processes that benefit future projects is compounding value. So maybe every company isn't developing software, but all these construction companies are developing systems, and we want to give people the tools to develop their own systems, and let the systems do the work on the projects for them. So I think, in conclusion, construction is inevitably complex. I think us calling any sort of building simple was a somewhat naive thing. What's more important is simple processes that can manage that inevitable complexity of construction. So in other words, we don't want people to spend time making models. We want people to make processes that make models. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Scott? Go ahead.
Is that for sale right now?
Yeah, we're in beta right now. So the reality is that like I said, we work closely with our clients. So yeah, you can use the software now. We like to help understand exactly what you're going to do with it, and there may be certain features that we want to improve upon for you.
Are you letting some of these parametric processes drive efficiency in those models? So are you able to look at design intent from architects and then create the most efficient framing for that?
Yeah, not in a generalized sense, but we've certainly experimented with that on isolated conditions. Are you familiar with Grasshopper?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, so we can set up workflows for specific things that we want to optimize. I think there's a lot of interesting potential to bake that actually into the software and have recipes think about things like minimizing material while still satisfying certain engineering criteria.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thanks.
Let me first introduce Dave Cooper, co-founder and host of Dave Cooper Live. With decades of experience in industrialized construction, Dave's career has been defined by a passion for pioneering off-site construction methods and a talent for generating compelling content on the Dave Cooper Live platform, showcasing those who drive transformation within the built environment. Dave's role as an industry consultant has allowed him to share insights on a global scale through keynote speaking and hosting exclusive in-person networking events. Anchoring the Dave Cooper Live show and broadcasting live on location events underline his skills in content creation and community building within the AEC and real estate development community. He has conducted over 3,000 interviews with leading industry experts, new entrants, and key stakeholders within the ecosystem of the built environment. On a mission to facilitate the transition of industry practitioners and developers towards smarter, more efficient, sustainable building practices, his expertise in volumetric modular construction and knack for demystifying complex industry topics has made him a community builder that believes that we can learn from each other and build it better together.
So my name is Dave Cooper, and I have been traveling the world showcasing innovation in construction for roughly the last 7 years. A lot of you I've known, a lot of the factories I have been to that's in here. So as Dave Cooper Live, we hope you connect with us, learn with us, and grow together like Jennifer was saying. Who is Dave Cooper Live and what is DCL? DCL, we take a comprehensive look at the intersection between design, constructability, and how we are living in thoughtfully created spaces. We have equal parts interest in not only what we're building, who we're building for, and how we are going to keep building into the future. What are the people going to look like that are living in our products today and tomorrow, right? We're talking about constructability. Funny enough, this term is something that we've been talking about, and now it's been coming up several times just at the Mass Timber Show yesterday. We're not talking about compromise. So constructability is the ease and efficiency with which a structure or a project can be built. Ease and efficiency. Here's where we're going to pick up. I'm going to take you on a whirlwind of products that are helping us do this across the world. So hopefully you guys can keep up. I'm going to talk fast, but I'm more than happy to get with all of you after this presentation. So how do we do this and still create inspiring and beautifully designed places and spaces? Anybody ever been here to the Vessel in New York City, Hamden Yards, right? It's a really cool structure, right? This brought parametric design and prefabrication together from the very start. What you're looking at here is what they call one of the flying bones. It's just one of 75 pieces to help build this building. Now, what's unique about this building is what the architect and the contractors had to say, and I'm going to read this exact quote. We weren't just imagining the end structure, but we were imagining how do you actually assemble this, and having all the contractors at the table with us from the very beginning. Everything we designed to be totally integrated, to be as efficient as possible, which allowed us to minimize the materials, optimize construction speed, and deliver on the tightest of tolerances, right? This whole project came together within a few millimeters and needed 0 adjustments on site. I bet there was a little bit, but that's what they're saying, right? So this is a purposely, collaborative process that's advancing the art of off-site construction. And as we've all heard, you need to start in the beginning. You need to start talking with all the trades and the contractors to have a successful project. And this one is super, super complex. Picture of our kids. Unfortunately, that picture was taken after we made my son climb all the way to the top and back down. But we are on a mission, not only as a team, but as a family, to actually see how industrialized construction and the adoption of technology is advancing to build it better. So this is Reframe System. They're out of the New England market, right? What are they doing? This is ex-Amazon distribution experts who've decided to start their own micro factories using small robots. They are very regional. They're using software that not only creates the digital work for the CNC and the robotic machines, it's also addressing regional building codes and regional styles. So in other words, they're doing micro factories. We all know in the United States that architecture changes every 50 miles or something like that. They're coming up with micro factories that are going to be able to solve all of that and go for unskilled workforce that can run and work in these factories. Here's another company, Mercer Mass Timber. They are part of one of the largest mass timber companies in the world. They have now partnered up with Green Canopy Node, and what's great about them is they are combining capital technology and designing to build net zero. They have a fully integrated MEP panel solution, taking the combination of mass timber and components and modular construction to a whole new level. Now, what if one wall panel system could be a multiple solution for the same customer or multiple customers, right? This is Modlogiq. Right now you're looking at a Walmart. That's one of their eyeglass departments in a Walmart. This is the same wall panel being used in a pop-up medical facility. Or how about this? How about an office space? Same wall panel. Or how about residential space? How about converting all the old buildings that all the corporations moved out of during COVID and converting them to living space? This is one solution that's doing all that. Now imagine if you could think of your wall panel system in the same exact way. How can you configure it? Scott, who was just up here, was right on when it comes to what you can truly do with a 6-step process. His is a little more complex than what I'm talking about here. This is another company that is in California, Plant Prefab, and they partnered with Cloud Apartments, and their focus is on urban infill and multifamily modular construction. They use a hybrid approach of panels and modulars. But what's making them even more unique is not just their design tool, but they're also using low voltage wiring throughout their entire complexes. A system called Domatic. It's something you want to pay attention to. Low voltage is coming. It's controlling everything from the MEPs all the way through to having your blinds go up and down and listening to some great music. But they're using a program called VDC, Virtual Design and Construction, right? I don't know if anybody ever heard the term VDC in here before? Right, there's only a couple people. So basically what their system is doing, it's returning to that word constructability, right? They are putting in critical components and making sure that the design does not get lost in translation. Going back to the vessel, you got to pre-plan up front, you got to have all the stakeholders up front, you need to have the technology to start doing this. BIM, digital twins, great, it's been here forever, but now we have AI, we have so much more that's moving forward and plugging and playing into all of this. So their systems helps them reduce risk, assess performance, mitigate costs, and schedule overruns. So in other words, build it once digitally and then build it more efficiently in the field. This is Blueprint Robotics. I was just at their manufacturing facility not too long ago, and they have just implemented a new precision planning tools that enable them to streamline their own production. How many people in here are manufacturer owners? Do we got some manufacturer owners? How many of you would actually shut down your production line to implement a new software? Anybody? Probably not. Here's the question I asked Jason Boss, the COO. I said, how did that software implementation go? He said, we had to go live. There was no shutting down our lines. There was no time to test. And not only did it work, we saw immediate results in the terms of productivity, and it directly impacted our bottom line. That partner actually was standing up here, so I'm going to give him a shout out. It was Graitec StrucSoft WMF software program. It increased their productivity. We are to a point now where you can start plug and playing software if you have the right partners to make that happen. Very important. So I strongly encourage all of you in the room to sit here and look to your left, look to your right, and say, there are people in here who have failed, and then there's people that have sailed, and like most of us, we've all failed at some point, and we can learn from each other. So do your homework and get going with confidence. Now, back over to London. I just got back last week. This is British Offsite. Now, what's awesome about British Offsite is they didn't start out like this. This is part of Weston Homes. British Offsite was the third generation Sean Weston. He said, all right, you take that little corner of my manufacturing facility, right? You prototype your new panel system, right? They were traditional builders. They took a corner, they panelized an entire system on an assembly line process first. They figured it all out first before they went to this. They also built some mega projects like this project right here. That's their panel. That's what's being built on an automated line. It's called the Unisystem panel. They now opened that factory of Randex, and just by coincidence, you know, they're using a Vertex software to run this line. They are doing, not even open a year, 1,000 units a year out of this factory, and they are ramping up to be at 3,000 units in the next 6 to 7 months. I have not been in any automated factory yet that is producing that level of panels at the speed they're producing. And they're doing it with affordable housing. To the right, 40% of that building, 40% of that building is affordable housing, and that's right outside of downtown London. All right, I put the devil on the screen, right? The International Code Council. Let me tell you something about the International Code Council. I have never been, has anybody ever been to their annual event and conferences? I have never been. This year we had the opportunity to go because the CEO, Dominic, reached out and said, we need the offsite community to come work with us. We want to hear from you. You do not need to be part of any association to have a seat at the table on how we are developing new codes for our systems. So if you're interested in that, I highly suggest you reach out to them or reach out to me and I'll put you in connection with them. The other side of this is they actually had a display floor, right, where the vendors were all there. And on that floor, they had companies like Blitz, NOAA, Code Comply AI. So let's talk about this. third-party inspections waste time, and it wastes money, and it wastes resources every time it has to happen in your manufacturing environment. Well, we're looking at Blitz and NOAA. There is now virtual third-party inspection happening using AI and cameras. And we all know, as much as it sounds silly, that AI and cameras is much more accurate than our virtual, our physical eyes, not our virtual eyes, are. And then there's the other side, right? What about submitting plans to the building departments? That's a pain in the ass too, right? Well, that's where Code Comply is starting to come in. Code Comply is actually transforming the permitting process by converting the manual plan reviews into efficient collaboration between the users. The artificial intelligence connects it with the building department. Now, what if we could all stay connected with the customer all the way through the life cycle of the building itself through manufacturing? Well, there's a company called Krokus right here, and that's exactly what they're doing. They are connecting all the way through to the end user with a dashboard that they use called BOSS, right? Building Operating Systems. It measures how your building is actually performing. It has predictive analytics for property managers and building owners. The results? By doing this, or you're lowering your maintenance costs, there's less energy consumed, and they're getting predictable analytics to improve their process each and every day, even after the building is on site. And the most important part, your customer knows what they're getting. They may be asking for a high energy efficient project, but if you're using a dashboard like they're using, you can actually show them the numbers that matter. Homatics. I was just at a product launch over in London for this, and I will tell you that not only was it a cool product, it got the attention of Parliament. There were several Parliament members at this launch for this product because they have the same problem as we do with the homelessness and affordability. So what's cool about this is truly end-to-end. As a customer, you can design your house. You can pick your products. And then all the way through the turnkey, you'll know exactly what it costs. But what's happening on the back end is super cool. This company has partnered with manufacturers all throughout England. So when you're designing and picking, they've also secured the supply chain, all the sustainable products that are in there. So if you're a customer looking at this, you can see they have a dashboard up there. So as they're designing and picking their products, they're seeing what their carbon credit score is. So not only are they able to design their house, have their house manufactured, have their house built, now they're also getting the financing and carbon credits that are going to save them up to 25% on their mortgage. This company is controlling the whole process to include the supply chain, the manufacturing, turning over the keys, and maintaining the structures. Who's going to do all this for us, right? I mean, I look around the room, I'm no young buck anymore either, right? Who's going to come in and help us teach all this? Well, there are people out there starting to do this in a very, very big way. To the left, you'll see it's Aaron Graven, Lake Erie Electric. Maybe some of you know them. They are a part of the E-Mobility Advisory Board. And these are the people you want to start connecting with, right? They're teaching in their labs installation and maintenance, electrical infrastructure, drone technology, and advanced air mobility. Anybody know what that means? So they're teaching the cool stuff. And not only are they teaching the cool stuff, I saw it out front. You guys have a Trimble helmet sitting out there, right? And I know the HoloLens, I just caught on that might be changing as well. But Trimble has now started working with Florida A&M Mechanical University and Ohio State. We finally have the larger universities taking a look at what we're doing, and they are educating them on how to use the HoloLens, techless structures, Trimble RI robotics and total stations. It's finally coming out. And I know we also have Gary in here who has the Offsite Construction School. There is so much going on, and there's more people getting involved, and it's going to take a massive lift of the youth to get there. But if you're looking to hire people, these are some resources for you to get some of the smart folks. So how are we bridging the gap between architects, engineers, and the end user? This is a prime example. This is the Progress Group, Bricks in Italy. They build concrete fabricated walls. Their factory is amazing. It's huge, it's like 400,000 square feet. There are 7 people that work in the entire factory. And not only the factory is doing that, they partnered with a company called Green Code. So in their factory, they have climatic ceilings done automated, MEPs, lighting, acoustic panels. Think about it, acoustic panels in concrete wall facility. They're connecting the full value chain and bridging the gap between the architects, the engineers, and the end user because they're making better products that come right out of the factory directly to them. MCP. This is a super cool company. They're out of Germany. So think about custom designed, prefabricated, rough MEP solutions. That's right. They've already built all of your MEP wall systems, your bathrooms. This isn't a bathroom pod. This isn't coming with your camera. This is all of the rough in. They ship it to you on these crates. It's an assembly product, pre-designed for quick assembly. Keyword is assembly. That's where we're going to get the speeds and efficiency when we're building in the factory. And that can go to your factory or it can go to a job site and it's tailored just for you. It's perfect for like healthcares, multifamily, hotels, gym healthcares. You should be looking at this. We're going to take it up a notch for some of the bigger projects like we're seeing. Victaulic, been around since World War II. These folks are right out of Pennsylvania. They got their name from victory from World War II. So what they're doing is prefabricated and pre-designed pipe joining systems. All of those orange things, not only can you put them on, you can take them off. You can store them, you can reuse them, you can come in and reconfigure your building, you can add new lines, take away from your lines. Each fitting is not only reusable, but it's recyclable as well. And they're working on some of the biggest projects in the world. This is some of the NEOM construction that they're doing. They don't do just buildings, they do full groundwork site infrastructure, and it comes to you in a modular format on a truck. Let's talk about Intelligent City, right? Now, I know a lot of you in here are steel manufacturers, and oh, Dave, you're spending a lot of time talking about wood manufacturers. It was actually somebody in this room not too long ago that said to me, Dave, my competition isn't other steel manufacturers. My competition is the timber frame world. That's who we're competing with, right? There are some processes that I'm showing you here that you really should be looking at for that incorporation. This is one of them. This is Intelligent City, right? They're using parametric design with the Internet of Things, as they say. They have a panelized system that can infinitely, is that the right word, configure and customize all of their jobs. They're using mass timber wall panels, and they have come up with a predefined panel system that allows advanced building strategies. They're using digital design and advanced data and manufacturing and robotics. Think of Modlogiq, who I showed you not too long ago. They have the same type of system where they have a configurable wall system that can be used over and over and over again, no matter the project. So when you can actually offer the full value proposition of constructability, you can see the results of the planning and the value in the streamlined process. We want to build at scale. We need to streamline our process. It starts small, but then you end up going big. ICG, I think ICG's in the room too. So this is a cool project that they had. So the ICG started working with UPMC Health Center, right? It's a huge health center in the Northeast. They had a large hospital facility that they wanted to build. ICG came in and met with their general contractor. They analyzed all the data. They have something they call the Medallion Program for enhancing construction safety, compliance, and cost savings, right? So what did they do? They came in, they looked at the entire project, they got with the general contractor, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a pop-up facility right next to where we're building this hospital, and we're going to prefabricate all of your bathroom pods in there. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing a 300% increase in production and throughput, 50% labor reduction, and a predicted $5 million savings. Who wouldn't want to give a customer a predicted $5 million savings? Split the difference at least, right? Give them half, keep half for saving it for them. So this is what they had to say. This changed easily in Rivers. That was the general contractor. We are being invited to projects that we have never thought possible. Folks, it's all coming back to data analytics, how we're looking at all of our information. Now, this next slide's not a kiss up to Howick. It deserves to be in here, even though, you know, they're good people. So, but let's talk about what they're doing when you have Howick technology involved. This is the Victorian Lane projects, right? It's 123 apartments. They have a telescopic panel technology. So maybe you're building something new and you're tying into an old retrofit. Their panels actually expand up and down, left and right, and they can fit in any environment. But here's what the contractor had to say. It reduced the installation time by 50%, reduced the waste, and reduced the labor costs. And they were using QR codes to make it all happen. So let's talk about how far you can go with prefab construction. This is in here more of an inspiration. To the left is Gearin. Anybody ever seen Deadliest Catch, right? Guess where that is? That is right up where the Deadliest Catches film. Gearin put that whole project on a vessel, modular, and shipped it up there. You can actually see it in one of the shows. No delays, no missing parts. And that project that went up there. This one to the right, Dorci. Anybody know of Dorci? Ever hear of Dorci out of Turkey? Dorci is the largest modular manufacturer in the world. They do 400 to 500 units a day out their door. They are mainly in the rapid deployment solution, military solutions, but they're doing incredible things. They ramp up from 1,000 employees to 2,000 employees overnight. With that, though, that's 10,000 feet up on a mountain. They took their modules. So the challenges are limited access, remote location, harsh weather. They were able to do all of that with offsite construction. So the point is, it's really up to all of you out there to kind of, how far are we going to go? How high are we going to go? We need to start looking at what's changing, because digital BIM products, they were the future, but now they're part of the future because there's so many other things coming in. So that's all I have for you. 20 minutes, sorry, Cindy, but thank you, everybody.
First, let's welcome David Bernardino to the stage, founder and managing director of Bernardino Enterprises. For over 25 years, David has led brands and driven growth across various sectors, including building materials, home building, consumer packaged goods, consumer healthcare, advertising, management, consulting, and nonprofit, serving organizations such as P&G, Merck, Pinnacle Foods, Samsung, Ammunition, and Deloitte. His work has spanned organizations ranging from startups to the Fortune 100 and in geographies ranging from North America to the BRIC countries, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. In addition to his business endeavors, David serves in various leadership positions as a corporate trustee for the National Association of Home Builders Leading Suppliers Council, member of the board of directors for NAHB, member of the board of directors for She Built Foundation, and advisor to Free Spirits Company and Mama P and True Vista. David is also a frequent speaker at industry events such as the International Builder Show and the Kitchen and Bath Show. Outside of work, David spends much of his time shuttling his two very active athletic sons between various sporting events, and in some instances, he may be operating the scoreboard or doing the team's stats. And please don't hold it against him, but he is from my home state of New Jersey. So please welcome David Bernardino.
Good morning, everyone. You're probably asking yourself, why is a marketer up here? And this presentation came from a couple conversations that Cindy, Chris, and I have had over the course of several months, just nerding out about the state of the industry. Because there are a lot of innovative speakers, there are a lot of innovative practices that are happening here. But ultimately, the missing link is we got to change consumers' behavior. And as we continue to nerd out in those conversations, it became patently clear that we needed a call to action, almost a clarion call, because the world is changing more rapidly than ever. If you think about just what's happening all around us today, there's digitization, right? Think of blockchain, crypto, AI. Hell, half the images here is generated from ChatGPT. I was able to do this presentation and develop it in literally half the time that normally would take me to do this. All these other things that we've been talking about today as it relates to digitization, changing the way we do things. Skilled labor leaving the industry. We all know this, right? There's the famous study by McKinsey back in 2020 that said 40% of the skilled trades in the United States are going to exit the industry by 2029. Last I checked, we're about to enter 2025. That's literally tomorrow. Housing shortage is worsening, right? If you think about it, the estimates say 1 to 3 million units short, and yet we have the largest cohort of consumers coming of age, Gen Z. If you just think about it, that shortage is probably going to get worse before it gets better. However, all those factors, right, digitization, skilled labor crisis, the housing shortage, they represent massive opportunities, particularly how we build, which is why we're all here today, right? Massive innovations as far as that's concerned. How we go to market, right? We need to really be thinking about different ways on going to market and reaching our customers, our consumers, our future tenants, and things like that. How we delight them, because ultimately if we don't delight them, if you don't delight your customers, they're not going to become repeat business. If we don't delight homeowners or tenants, they're not going to repeat. So at the end of the day, this is all about consumer delight. How do we ensure that we actually deliver on the promises that we actually bring to bear? But if you think about it, it's a lot of barriers. A lot of barriers to change, right? Because if you're not doing anything that's disruptive and innovative, you're not going to hit the proverbial wall. What are some of them? You know, I sit on the board of the NAHB. You hear this all the time if you sit in Washington, D.C. Code changes, right? We all seen it, right? Dave was talking about IECC and some of the other things, right? How do we get around this labyrinth of code changes that are upon us and are coming down the pike? Shifting legislative and regulatory environment goes without saying, right? You know, January 21st, we're going to have a new regime in town, right? The rules are going to change. And then if you think about all that dovetails into the state codes and how local codes are doing it. So how do we manage all those things given these potential barriers or potential tailwinds? But I think the number one thing that we have to face for thinking about it really honestly is this general fear of failure, right? We are a risk-averse industry, and that leads to a bias against change, right? Talked to a lot of my clients across the industry, whether it's software platforms or whatnot. The number one thing you hear is, oh, you have a great platform, or you have a great product, or you have a great set of innovation. I don't want to be the guinea pig. Come back to me when someone else has actually proven it out, right? I'm getting the head nods, like I've seen this before. A lot of people think that that's a bridge too far. Call me Pollyanna, call me an optimist, but I honestly think this is the marketing challenge of a lifetime. Think about it. All these different things that are going against us, all these different things going against us as an offsite industry, it's the marketing challenge of a lifetime because of all those things. Because at the end of the day, I'm now going more technical in terms of marketing. Our job as marketers, if you think about any function within a business, the marketing function is solely focused on changing consumer behavior. Because if they were adopting the behavior that you wanted, you wouldn't need us. So there is a critical role to play which this industry in general has not embraced. And it comes down to a very simple framework. This is something that P&G has used since literally the 1950s to change consumer behavior. Of like if you sat in Cincinnati and asked the Pampers team or the Tide team, what are we going to do? It's literally, you could see one pager that talks about this. And I'll walk you through this in a little bit of detail. On the left-hand side is literally put on one page. What are they doing today? How are they thinking, feeling, and behaving vis-a-vis your brand, your category, your service, whatever it may be? Put on one page. Then on the total right side of the chart, it's what do you want them to think, feel, and behave tomorrow after interacting with your brand, with your product, with your service? Obviously, it's going to be very different, and obviously, it's going to be in favor of your brand, product, or service. Great. The most important piece of the equation is what's in the middle. What's the barrier to change? Or what are the barriers to change? What are the unmet needs that your customer, your target audience, or whomever is seeking but is not telling you? Or another way, what are those pain points? Put that on one sheet of paper and map it out. Because if you've done this exercise, you can transform marketing from a cost driver into a business driver. Because what you can now do is put everything that you're doing from a messaging perspective, from a product perspective, from a pricing perspective, from a distribution perspective, to address all these key barriers, to drive that change of behavior. It's totally hacking sort of the neuroscience behind what drives behavior and sort of getting to the heart of what makes people tick. Remember the movie, What Women Want with Mel Gibson? It's basically that exercise. Thing is, most people view marketing as a collateral maker. So as Jen eloquently put, I was a consumer packaged goods marketer that stumbled upon this industry about 10 years ago. And I remember my first meeting at Samsung. This was leading B2B marketing for home appliances, launching that brand into the industry. And I remember the sales director, Guy Minix, we were sitting in a meeting and he says, Dave, marketing's a collateral maker. I just need brochures, I need swag, I need shirts. What the hell are you guys going to do? The other thing that you guys do, you host great events. You have these jaunts with builders or whomever. You really don't add value to the organization. I said, Guy, honestly, I think we could be a secret weapon. And the thing is that we can be a secret weapon in categories that are not visible to the consumer. And when we were talking, Cindy, Chris, and I, a couple times, we were wrestling with this question of, okay, it's easy to change consumer behavior in things that you can see. You know, in the building industry, we refer to it as stuff that's outside the wall. Think of fixtures, think of surfaces, think of home appliances, think of flooring, right? It's really easy to see sort of the benefits and all that stuff. But what about categories that are inside the wall, that are invisible to the consumer, invisible to folks? You know what? The best practices that we can learn. This is literally a shelf set of the analgesics aisle that I took last week at CVS, getting my flu shot. You look at the left, it's Tylenol. And look at the right, it's branded acetaminophen. The dirty little secret in consumer healthcare is that those products are probably made out of the same factory in Parago, Michigan. The only difference is they put the box. One has Tylenol on it, the other one has branded CVS in it. If you scroll down, look at the price points. $8.29 for Tylenol, $6.99 for CVS. If I took a broader shot of the shelf set, Tylenol has 50% of the shelf relative to CVS brand. But yet, if you look at the actual product, the chemical that actually works inside you to deliver the pain relief, it's 500 milligrams of acetaminophen. It's the same damn thing. But yet Tylenol's been able to garner a 50% share of shelf. Can be done, ladies and gentlemen. This can be done. Another category, probably maybe closer in, Intel versus AMD, right? Everyone's heard of Intel, right? Dun, 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 right? The little jingle. Who's ever heard of AMD? One person, right? But many people have heard of Intel, right? Why did they do that, right? It's become de facto standard in many instances because of what they've been able to do. Another one, this comes from years ago, right? Remember the iPod when it first came out? iPod was not the first MP3 player to go to market. He had other folks that were literally on the right-hand side. But Apple, to their brilliance, made the interface simple. They created, the Apple Store, where you could buy music. But they also introduced this notion that personalizing your music library in a way that's easily digestible and you can take anywhere is all about individual freedom and expression. That's the thing that they tapped. Unlike the folks on the right, it's a lossless MP3 player with all these features and all these features that actually no one gives a damn about. Maybe a little bit closer in. Owens Corning, right? Remember the Pink Panther, right? It's come sort of the de facto standard. You look at every Henley Wood builder uses survey, they're still the #1 brand in most instances, both from a brand affinity, but also from a brand usage. Last 12 months, brand usage last 2 years. So if you think about it, trial, repeat, loyalty. Because they've been able to build a brand over time that resonates with consumers versus the guys on the other side, just, hey, achieve greater energy efficiency. That's great and all, but all else being equal, a lot of folks are speccing Owens Corning. So why do I say all this? Because ultimately, it's about articulating your core value proposition, right? Going back to the chart I said earlier, current behavior, desired behavior, barriers. The next part of the equation is you got to articulate a value proposition that addresses that change in a way that's demonstrable to you. The framework we like to use is basically saying, hey, because we give X, you, the consumer, get Y, and here are 3 reasons to believe. You do those 2 things, you pretty much have the DNA of what your brand can do from any type of messaging. Give it to any marketing CMO, they can go execute this tomorrow in a way that will demonstrably start to differentiate your brand, in a way that will actually start to grow your brand in a way that actually makes sense to you. Because ultimately, right, what is marketing about? It's about trust. It's about a relationship, right? If you look at all the different examples that are out there, marketing and the successful brands created this relationship built on trust. Again, it goes back to what are we promising and are we delivering against it? Ask yourself the question, are you doing that for your own brands, for your own services, for your own products? Because honestly, if you've done effectively, it can overcome the least common denominator that I find in every market research study since I've been in the craft for 30 years, which is price. That's the worst thing we want to hear, right? When you're sitting in, oh gosh, it's price is the #1 purchase driver. That's a crock of BS. Because if you're actually delivering something that addresses those consumer needs in a way that's differentiated to you, you can actually drive premium pricing in this space. The issue is most of us, and this is an indictment on us as an industry, we failed to get a thorough understanding of our target audience. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of wherewithal to get the voice of the customer. I sit on projects. I'm working with a couple clients right now, and some of them are like, oh, we already know the target audience. Do we? The answer is probably no. And so by repeatedly understanding what our target audience, our consumers are all about, we can start to address the value proposition, because ultimately, price isn't the only barrier. It's about bringing value to your customers in a way that demonstrably addresses their core barriers, their core issues. Because if we can do that, it goes back to consumer delight. They will always be loyal to us. So I'm going to leave you with 2 questions, because I know we're close to the break. Where do you stand? Where do you stand with this? And take an honest look at yourself. Where do you stand? Second question is more forward-looking. Are you ready to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you? Because damn it, I am. I left my last organization 2 months ago to go on my own because of the opportunities that are in front of us. Are you ready to take advantage of what's in front of us? Because, God, this is the time for us to make change. And I thank you kindly. How does this apply given a more convoluted path to purchase? I think part and parcel with this, which I didn't show this is sort of the abbreviated version. The complex version of this would be you start to map out the customer journey and all sort of the inputs into the path to purchase, all different ways that your potential target audience interacts with the brand in the consideration phase. In a lot of these categories, the consideration phase could be 3, 6, 9, 24, 36. I've worked in categories where the consideration phase is 5 years. So how do you continue to nurture those relationships such that at a certain point, you're able to convert that into a potential business opportunity? But how do you continue to stay top of mind, knowing that the purchase cycle in these instances are real long and convoluted? Because the joke we say is, it's almost like the UN. Like, it takes forever and you need consensus, but if one person says no, you're done. So how do you start to map out the marketing systems and processes such that you can efficiently nurture and prospect those relationships such that by the time they say, hey, I'm ready to buy, or I'm ready to consider you, you're in the tournament. But it involves a whole deep understanding of path to purchase, and then how the marketing infrastructure that you have, whether it's marketing automation platforms, CRM systems, your selling organization, how do they all fit in that equation such that over time you're guiding that person, you're guiding that company, you're guiding that consumer, such that year 5, to give that long-winded example, you're at least in the tournament.
It is my honor to introduce Jim Gabriel, who is the president and CEO of Modlogiq Incorporated and Design Logic, based in New Holland, Pennsylvania. As a 30-year pioneering leader in the modular construction industry, he drives innovation, sustainability, and efficiency in offsite construction building practices, with strategic vision and expertise necessary to revolutionize the construction sector, helping to shape the future of architectural design and development. His commitment to modular construction solutions reflects a deep understanding of the evolving landscape of healthcare delivery, affordable housing, and infrastructure demands, positioning Modlogiq as a leader in the industry. Jim graduated from Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a BS in marketing and business management. But if you could get a PhD in being a people person, that would be Jim Gabriel, and that's why in Pittsburgh we call him Dr. Gabriel. Welcome.
I'm a business development guy, so if you have any technical questions at all after the presentation, Nick Janahakis is our design lead, and Russ Wills runs our Howick-powered facility in Seville, Ohio. So a little bit about Modlogiq. What this says here is we've been doing this for 45 years. It also says that we haven't quite figured it out. We've done a lot of great work in that time period. We've recently acquired, so we have our New Holland facility, which is our volumetric facility. We build volumetrically. They were built steel and concrete structures. And most modular manufacturers are high volume, low custom. We're the exact opposite. We're high custom, low volume. So in our facility in New Holland, which has been there since 2000, and in the States in 2003, we're part of a company recently separated as part of an acquisition in 2018. But we've been at this for 45 years. Really, in my estimation, pioneering. And I give that credit to our founders, the McNeil family in Grimsby, Ontario, Canada, which is where I met them. Seville, Ohio came on board as an addition, an unexpected addition. We had the opportunity while we were building what I think in this presentation will show you was the largest permanent modular hospital in North America, and I said, we need to start automating our process, right? If you come to our New Holland facility, it's decidedly unautomated. Our theory and our formula isn't based on automation, it's based on process, as Scott had mentioned, which I'm actually happy not to have followed his presentation because it's pretty cool stuff. We integrated the light gauge steel, ready to assemble studs, kitted parts, as a way to be able to increase our capacity, increase the speed. So we acquired a company, acquired the assets and the equipment. We've got 5 Howick machines. I always say, the interesting thing is that we're not exactly a Howick customer. We actually acquired their equipment from someone else, but they're a great partner for us. And we expect to grow this model that both of these facilities represent. So you talk about the housing shortage and what we believe is the key to affordability and really being able to circumvent what's happening in the modular side. Our view is in order to be able to apply modular and offsite construction to what everyone knows is a gigantic problem, the current model is not scalable, and candidly, it's not sustainable. The modular manufacturers, Dave knows this, modular manufacturers have the highest rate of failure. I won't get into the details of why. I do have some theories as to why that is. We think there's a better option. Modular manufacturing and production model requires greater upfront investment, higher overhead costs, slower ROI, and it's less scalable. And it is, if you have the ability to be able to produce for a particular geography, what happens when you need to apply that expertise in another geography, right? It's not scalable. If you put your money into one modular manufacturing facility, are you going to do 2, right? Maybe, depending on how much money you have. But I don't have that much money, and so it pushes us to think differently about it. So what we want to be able to do is apply our 45 years of doing this in New Holland, Pennsylvania. It's bespoke, it's highly customized, but essentially it's an assembly process. We want to be able to take that concept, fueled by powered by our facility or a like facility. Think of Seville not as a component of our business, but a component provider feeding into the modular process, the assembly process. Streamline the design. We've got our own in-house design, but that's not designed to control projects. It's to control the process. And so we're constantly working to try to find ways to apply a manufacturer's mindset to projects, right? From a design standpoint, we all know, starting with design with somebody who doesn't have that knowledge, experience, and capability, it's just a longer process. We want to be able to increase that. Distributed to scalable manufacturers to standard component parts and pieces. right? Being able to integrate that into the assembly process, the assembly of the elements and components into modules. So we're taking it to the next step. It doesn't apply to every project, but if modular is going to help solve, a lot of the affordable housing challenges that we have, we've got to be able to find more efficient ways and candidly, not just more efficient ways to build and integrate automation by extension, not by investment in particular facilities to produce those. And we think that model is more scalable. We also think that model, if you come to New Holland, Pennsylvania, which we welcome you to do that, you'll see just that it is decidedly unautomated, but it is entirely portable. So we think that we can take what we do from the design through supply into assembly, and we can take those projects and produce them near site. So this is, we've soft launched our move into the housing sector, not because we think that's a big, financial opportunity for us, but because we think we can apply our means, methods, and process and experience, 45 years of doing this, to help solve that in more scalable ways. So I mentioned our Seville facility. Don't think about it as where all our Howick machines are housed and where we produce studs. Think of it as a component manufacturing facility. That component manufacturing facility feeds a volumetric facility, and we're working on the model for this, but we believe pretty strongly that our first assembly facility is going to be in Columbus. And that gets us the ability to be able to take this model, apply it at a low-cost basis to then now be able to replicate that. So think about that component manufacturer not as just panels and studs and trusses, but mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Dave mentioned it. Some of the companies that are already producing prefabricated component parts and pieces. Our goal on the design side with design and with our design partners is to be able to integrate that as a kit of parts and be able to assemble that. The genesis of this was a hospital that we built in Athens, Ohio, a 100,000 square foot building that we built in New Holland, Pennsylvania. And I said, the next hospital is probably not going to be built in New Holland, Pennsylvania. It's going to be built near site. And I'm just a visionary. I'm just thinking of this stuff. I don't have the limits that some of you technical people do. I think it makes sense, and I think it absolutely is a repeatable, scalable process. What we believe that can do. So this is a reconfiguration of our Seville facility. We've got 5 Howick machines. We can produce anything from a 12 gauge to a 20 gauge stud in any profile that would be applicable in a commercial or a multifamily housing project. So we're reconfiguring this facility to be our component manufacturing facility. This is the assembly facility. There are very few machines in this assembly facility. Maybe an area for CNC, but this is theoretically where we're going and where we think the scalability of and the applicability of what we do into what we all know is a gigantic problem relative to housing. But what does that mean? It does require a level of standardization, and that's not boxes, that's panels. Pre-configured panels that allow us to be able to produce panels when we need to produce panels. This factory, and I'm sure if I spoke to the gentleman from Wolf Partners, this is the biggest challenge is being able to produce when we need to produce it, right? You can't wait for development projects to get through development and design and be shovel ready to be able to get the return on this investment. We believe that process or that model is the pre-production of component parts and pieces. And being able to design those, control the design, we believe you can design just about any structure with a standardized wall types. So what does it do? Traditional, we know that. Modular industry, from a fabrication or a manufacturing standpoint, we believe that this not only reduces the total cost, because the freight is not insignificant. And again, we are delivering full volumetric modules, and the delivery of those is not inexpensive. The process that we're describing and that we're moving towards, we believe can also improve the speed and the volume, right? Anyone who understands the typical volume of a classic modular manufacturing facility, it is, if you are running all cylinders, if you can produce 10 mods a day, you're doing well, right? That's an exception. We believe that this model actually increases cost, the efficiency, and the speed. And these are the types of structures that we've produced and will continue. So we have a history of customization. So high-end, highly customized, commercial, and primarily medical, right? We believe that we could take that and start to standardize that. So we want to be able to standardize the custom. Chris Mortensen, who's our Chief Innovation Officer, says, standardize the invisible, customize the visible, right? That's what we're looking to be able to do with both of these facilities. And it provides us with what we believe. Again, I started with, we built the first permanent modular hospital in North America, and this is in Athens, Ohio. I said the next hospital is not going to be built in New Holland, Pennsylvania. It actually is. We're actually under design, but that's only based on the time, around which that project had to get into design. But every project, from the time we acquired the Seville facility till today, every project is designed as a kit of parts, right? The modules, each structural module, again, structural steel, red iron, poured concrete floors, that then gets outfitted. So we're bolting those modules together horizontally and vertically, and then it becomes a conventional project. And then we're increasing the speed and efficiency with panels that we're producing out of Seville. So we're increasing that speed. We think that also, will allow us, and probably the next hospital project will be built near site. That's our ultimate goal. Now, this is a project that's been in design. It's been probably for at least 2 years. It's a New York State project. This was our first. This was our first fully panelized. Every panel was produced in Seville, delivered to New Holland, assembled in complete fashion. These pictures don't actually show the siding, the Nichiha siding on the building. But that's the level of precision that we build from, and we think it applies in a broader sense, not just with custom applications, but with standardized applications. We certainly wouldn't build a multifamily housing project in a build together, what we consider a build together process. It does provide us with the basis for our component and assembly, developing assembly process. This project was 99% complete, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, complete, disconnected, disassembled, shipped to site, and reassembled. Understand what we believe is the applicability. Prefabrication, component parts and pieces, not just in the light gauge steel, but in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, the exterior finishes, the interior finishes. We're working with lots of companies across the globe, frankly, to be able to start to develop an approach that makes even these complex structures more efficient, more cost-effective, and viable. Not just in terms of being able to build those in our facility in New Holland, but anywhere. This facility could be a volumetric facility in our way of thinking and in where we're going with Offsite. So this is that hospital being built in our facility. Just want you to look around. If it can be built there, it could be built anywhere. Most of what we build is not in our facility because it's too small. So, I don't want to take away from, the applicability of off-site modular construction to multifamily housing projects, but first floor was emergency room, second floor was diagnostic imaging. Each one of those rooms were prepared for the equipment, the Siemens equipment, MR, CT. I just want to emphasize that modular can do big things. What we're now working on is how do we apply that to bigger challenges, not just bigger projects with a higher level of complexity.
So let's welcome Lorenzo Petrini, who brings a wealth of expertise and passion for growth and innovation to his role as Product and Innovation Manager at M3 Components in Sacramento, California. With a strong foundation in mechanical engineering and a Master of Science in Advanced Mechanical Engineering, Lorenzo focuses on the optimization of workflows for M3C manufactured products and fosters efficient, high-tech design-build concepts. His deep manufacturing experience in the prefabricated building systems industry, coupled with his management acumen, has been instrumental in advancing key projects at M3, including the implementation of the Stratus software, a new quality management program, and production for some of the company's largest manufacturing initiatives. Known for his dedication to the team, Lorenzo leads with a focus on collaboration and transparency. His drive for continuous improvement is reflected at a personal level as well as the professional performance of his team. In his spare time, Lorenzo loves to experience new things. His hobbies include fitness training, wine tasting, cooking, and anything outdoors. He hails from Florence, Italy, and was born with an innate sense of the connection between design, engineering, and construction. Please welcome Lorenzo.
Maximizing efficiency of shop operations. It's interesting because I've been fighting against this way of calling our facility a shop for 2 years, so I'm going to have it where we can't now. We are a manufacturing facility, not a shop. Shop where it's where you buy pasta. Manufacturing facility is where you make industrialized construction. So the bio already said everything about me pretty much. I'm a product and innovation manager. My role right now is to develop the manufacturing facility, the team, the processes, and everything that comes with it. I have a background in mechanical engineering, and most of my life I've been spending it with a sector that is completely different from construction. I have done automotive, I've done aerospace, military, and when I came to the US for the first time, I thought that this was a good opportunity to actually bring some of that philosophy into construction. So that's why I'm here. A little bit of a presentation about Mark III construction as a whole. We are a family-owned company, 50 years over experience, and $100 million revenue, 330 employees. Let's say that Mark III construction has divided in 3 different business cores in the last couple of years, where we cover MEP, components, and service. I personally work for components, where we have, for now, it's pretty new, $21 million revenue. Our manufacturing facility is 24,000 square feet. When I joined, it was pretty much empty. Now we are thinking about expanding to 80,000 because I cannot fit a chair in there anymore. And the component side is the one that is the business core side that focus on the prefab, components construction. I like to think that we sell alternative construction solution to our clients. because as we have been hearing from everyone, this world is ever changing, and it's true. Our ultimate goal is to sell products, so standardized wall panels, mods, pods for sectors that range from healthcare to higher education. The reality is that we are still a little bit far away from that to be an IKEA of construction, but we hope to get there. And in our manufacturing facility right now, we have our MEP prefab stations where we have we do welding, we do piping, we have the HVAC section with all the sheet metal, and we have our component side where we produce wall panels, kit of parts, and mods. So, lean at Mark III. I always like the definition of lean. I feel like the reason why a company should start thinking about lean and kind of living the lean life is because what you really want is efficiency. Like, we live in a market where we need to make a product as cheap as possible, as fast as possible, and perfect. Our clients, that's what they want. So what's the best way to approach it, apart from every kind of software and innovation, is efficiency. Efficiency, and have your team on board and thinking about lean. I use lean. I'm not a big fan of the term. I usually, when I explain this to the people on the floor, I always talk about common sense. Like, when you move in your brand new house and you are putting your tools in the kitchen, I don't think you're going to be putting your cutting knife in the bathroom. Like, you put them where you need. So I explain this way to the people on the floor, and that's how they come in together and understand this. As a company, of course, there is a lot of lean practices that I could be talking about. A couple tools that we use to streamline our process and to make sure that we are successful at what we do is the issue opportunity log. Sounds really simple, needs to be really simple, because if not, people don't buy in it. It pretty much run all the different departments, not just manufacturing. It runs along the whole process of the project, and we like to keep it with a really positive aptitude. We don't report just the issues, but we like to call the opportunities, which is pretty key to just keep it a little bit less intense. And we involve everyone. We keep track of this, and we keep it really close, and we have weekly meetings about this. Another tool that we use is the lesson learned, which, of course, at certain milestones of the project, we review the issue opportunity log, we come in with all the crew, we review what we did well, what we didn't do well, and it's a simple, again, but really high impactful tool, and it gives you the opportunity and gives the people opportunity to talk and to share what is their experience in the project, and for us to log what we've been doing wrong or what we've been doing good so that we can replicate it. So, virtual construction, you already heard this term. You are going to hear me talking about VDC a little. We have VDC for us is a key player where we invest and develop a lot due to the nature of our business. We do everything through VDC. Everything that runs through the shop has been digitalized before. And we had a turn in the last year where we implemented a new fabrication and management software that is Trusses. Before that, our VDC flow, and in general the flow of our projects, it was a little bit clumsy. No, I wouldn't say clumsy, but there were a lot of steps, a lot of offs needed, and with this it comes a lot of errors. And bottlenecks, even because you need to model everything, so it's hard to make it always perfect without Stud.io, which it's going to be fun. So after Trusses, what it is, as I said, is a fabrication management software. What it does really is streamline all the process from when our modelers model the buildings and the components to when I manufacture them. I can see I have live updates, live communications, and an insane amount of reduced waste. Our modelers, they are not anymore responsible to provide detailing sheets most of the time. We run at this point in our facility at a good 70% all digital. I have really good feedback from our customers because I was able to give them access to our dashboards so that we can see where we are at with each product. Every tracking status is tracked. We have QR codes. Everything that we produce is online. So whoever, of course, with some sort of restrictions that I put together to not give out too many information, they can see at every time where we are at. So talking about manufacturing facility, I see here actually calls it right. The manufacturing has been developed from kind of, as I was saying, a family-owned operation. We were succeeding at doing what we were doing, but we were not efficient. And we had a lot of waste, and we started looking into all the kind of lean manufacturing principles, and we started approaching more as like, it's less of a shop and more as a well-oiled and efficient machine. We have different single departments, as I said before, but we work in synergy, and we have same rules of engagement. We know the metrics of each single department, and we are able to work successfully towards a product that is so simple but complex at the same time that it's really hard to make it in the old-fashioned, or at least after trying what we have been doing lately, even the people on the floor, they definitely don't want to go back, which is awesome. Shop operations. Most of our work is going towards minimize expense, reduce waste, and get as many defect-free components as possible. It's funny because I've seen a lot of presentations today. Like one of the things that we went, I think, really interesting choice, and it proved really successful. We jumped into it. We are actually framing standing. Like we are framing all our components made with the studs from the Howick from standing. We made an entire system of rolling walls and rolling vertical tables where we can achieve better flow, better numbers, even if we have only 24,000 square foot facility. BIM is really important for us. It's everything that we do is digitalized. We are running at full capacity to try and implement as much as automation as we can. As I was saying, we have a Howick Frama 7600. We are actually talking about buying a second one, which I was joking with JD about. We might be happy to put it in a container in our backyard, which might actually happen. We have spiral duct machine, plasma table. We are thinking about buying a tiger saw. So we want to implement as much as possible to cut down every handoff. We want our manufacturing to read directly from the cloud, no errors, no waste. There is a fun fact after we developed Trusses, and Trusses is pretty good even at reducing waste. It does the nesting for you when you cut copper. This is an example when we're cutting copper for the first time. I had an entire skid of 20 footers, and at the end of the production, we built like 1,200 spools out of copper. The old waste that we had was like a little quarter-inch piece of copper. So what I did, because I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, I took those quarter-inch piece of coppers that are 1 inch diameter, and I give it to all the people that are implementing Stratas with me, like the rings. So that was a pretty cool thing to see. So you put everything together, or our 50 years experience, our efforts in the BIM development, our efforts in automation and fabrication software, and you get a company that is relatively new, at least on the component side, that they can deliver efficiently pretty big projects, and with incredible cuts in the schedule, and with almost zero defect. I say almost because we have a zero defect initiative, which I'm responsible for, and not there yet, but eventually we will. In this moment, we have limitations, I would say, geographical limitation. We have multiple projects that are spanning around all California. We have seen an incredible interest in our state for our company, and mostly coming from the healthcare sector. We have an insane amount of backlog of work, so we are the sky's the limit. We are thinking about expanding in new states, franchising, and the future, I feel like it's really bright. And looking at all these people, looking at all this bright mind, I feel like we are going in the right direction, and we are working towards having Mark III components be part of it. Oh, any questions?
Do you have to deal with Oshpod?
Yeah, so we deal with them. It's hard. We are working directly with them to try and be one of the first companies to actually get our product certified with them, the full wall panel. I know that you heard this before, but it's a long process and it's hard, but it's part of our OKR for next year. I think we're pretty close.
Now I'd like to introduce Greg Dettwiler. Greg is originally from Brisbane, Australia, began his career with an apprenticeship at Queensland Master Builders Association, earning his general contractor's license by the age of 25. He quickly gained recognition by building award-winning custom homes and became the youngest member of the Master Builders of Australia. After moving to the Sunshine Coast, Greg founded Dettwiler Property Group, expanding into the U.S. and Southeast Asia. In 2004, he acquired the master franchise rights for G.J. Gardner Homes in California, successfully expanding the brand across multiple U.S. states. Despite challenges during the global financial crisis, the franchise thrived under his leadership, becoming a top U.S. builder. After selling the rights in 2020, Greg facilitated the transition and now serves as head of strategic partnerships for canibuild in North America. He also manages rental properties in the U.S. and Australia. Outside of work, Greg is an avid motorcyclist who has competed in pro, motocross, and enduro races. His next challenge is a 100-mile desert race in Southern California, and he currently resides in Huntington Beach, California. Please welcome Greg.
I recently joined the canibuild family. However, I've dedicated my life to real estate and real estate technology. As Jennifer said, founding one of the largest custom home building companies in the world. We launched in California in 2006, quickly expanding across the United States, selling over $1 billion in real estate contracts. Very successful company. We perfected the construction side of the business. We're able to get our construction times for high-end custom homes down to 6 months, 6 to 9 months. However, what we really struggled with, our greatest challenge, was pre-construction. In pre-construction, we found that it was taking us longer. It was taking us a year to complete the pre-construction process and 6 to 9 months for construction. One of the big reasons for that was the challenges related to the pre-construction process, specifically gaining information from the site. Now, a challenge that whether you're a custom, whether you're off-site, modular, all builders face is knowing what is the site you're building on, what are the setbacks, what are the contours, what does it look like. And so we used to do it the old-fashioned way. We used to send people out on site with tape measures and measuring wheels and measure the site, physically looking for the challenges, looking for the trees, looking for the obstacles. That process is so inefficient and takes so much time. But that's how we trained our sales teams back in the day. We trained them to physically go out on site and physically measure up, every part of the site. So a little bit of background on canibuild. Founded in 2020. It's a cloud-based, award-winning PropTech solution. We have over 2,000 industry-leading clients. We have a presence in North America, Australia, and New Zealand. Our goal is to align that communication gap between the municipalities, the cities, the counties, sales teams, and builders, so that everyone is going to site with the same information. One of the things about us that makes us unique is our founder, Timothy Kakaro, is actually a builder. Now, Tim is a builder, but he also has a degree in computer science as well. And so myself and many of the people on our team all came from building backgrounds and then got into the technology fields. We have staff around the world in the United States, Australia, India, Pakistan. And so, when we're talking to builders, we can not just talk about the tech, we can actually say, hey, we've walked in your shoes, we understand where you're coming from. And we believe the answer to one of the most important questions in the building industry is simply in our name. Can I build? Can you build on a lot? Can you stay in compliance with rules and regulations? And so think of us as like the Google of the building-related industry. So if we were a Google search engine, and we can put this on your website, by the way, and more on that later, if you enter your address, we can answer the question with related to contours, setbacks, lot coverages, wildfire zones, flood zones, all in one place. Now, this is an actual report, and it's ironic here we are in Tampa, Florida. So a week ago, I had a very large builder, a builder that builds several thousand homes per year, and they asked me to demonstrate the value of our product. And so I said, well, do you have any subdivisions, any sites you're currently working on? So they gave me an address, and I put it into our system. I quickly added one of their standard plans. You can see, if you see the little green dot there, you can see that's one of their standard house plans. And I hit the flood layer. And as you can see there, that home that they're about to build next, and most of this community they're going to build in, is basically in the middle of a flood zone. Matter of fact, that one particular house, it couldn't be more, it's in the channel of the flood zone. So as a builder, they need to know this information, because what do you have to do when you're in a flood zone? You have to elevate the home. If you elevate the home and go up, that's going to add substantial cost to your project. So them knowing this information before they met with this developer, they were able to have a different conversation. Now, I converted this image into a PDF as a report, emailed it to them, and off they went to that meeting with this new information. So our system, this is our Pro app. You can put in an address, select your home design. This one here is demonstrating an ADU, which is very, very popular where I live in California. A lot of the ADUs are built by offsite manufacturers. So you can put an address, you can pull up that lot instantly, you can see the dimensions of that lot, you can see the location of where to put the ADU, and you can also get a much clearer image than you would from like Google Maps, where you can actually zoom down and see the obstacles and see what's happening on site. For too long, cities, counties, and governments have held us all captive with this knowledge and information. If you inquire about setbacks from a city, you often get a 95-page PDF that you have to read, and by the time you've read all of the information, you still have questions. After going through all of the information that they give you, time has gone by, and time costs money. And so in the ability to be able to sell, whether it's custom, whether it's off-site, the ability to be able to sell quickly, knowledge is power, and having that knowledge and information of not just what that lot looks like, but all of the rules associated with that lot. And that's all coming from, the building department and the planning departments. There was a study done 2 years ago that I found really fascinating. This is in the state of Washington, where a professor from the Wharton School of Business did a report after studying this for the entire previous year. And his conclusion was that because it is so difficult to get information about a site, because it's so hard to find out what you can build on a site, that if you put that into a real money cost, that was causing a 6.5-month delay, which was costing $31,000 in holding costs. And the bottom line of that priced 69,000 Washington families out of a home. So this is a study done by a professor to prove what it's costing, not just the industry, but our clients, what it's costing them, because all of this information is so hard to find. So we believe that we have the solution. We believe that by putting your address into Can I Build, you can have all of the information you need and that power to make informed decisions about your project. With our precise selling tools, you can visualize your home, ADU, or even a swimming pool. But what if we took that a step further and took it from can I build to can I buy? This is what we're working on right now. So on our platform, and you can see this is one of our clients here, Impressa Modular. So we're working on a platform where clients can go to their website and through that Google-like search bar that I showed you before, they can put in their site information and they can take their project all the way through to the point of sale. And this is done through what we call our lead converter. So our lead converter is embedded into a client's website. So that could be on your website where somebody can go to your website, you know, at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Salesperson is not needed, not required. They can put in their information of their lot, they can position their house, and they can come up with a design. And this is, I just came from the Dallas Pool Show, so this is an example of a swimming pool where they can put in their address and they can come up with a design and then also a price. Now, we're working with multiple industry-leading builder network partners right now, Boxable, Impressive, Modular, and all towards this same goal of this buy now button. So can I build and can I buy? So I decided to add this slide based on a challenge that I got recently from somebody I was speaking to that says, well, aren't there so many companies right now that are currently offering buildings online? And Home Depot was mentioned to me. It's like, hey, you can go to the Home Depot website and you can buy a house kit here online. Sure enough, you can. Here it is. But the interesting thing is, right below that, Home Depot says, ensure that this complies with site requirements, setbacks, height restrictions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like a huge disclaimer that basically says, sure, you can go ahead and you can buy this building online, but we have absolutely no idea if it will actually fit on your lot. We don't know if it complies with your lot. We don't know what the rules are. So basically, you can buy it, we'll deliver it, but we don't know if it's going to work for you. So back to the impressive screen here. So this is what we're developing right now, and by working with finance partners, clients of our builders will have the ability to be able to go to a website, be able to site a home design, whether that's a brand new construction, whether that's a off-site ADU, they will be able to get a report that says, do you comply or not comply? It'll give a score, a rating on that. And then they'll be able to go through a finance process and get approved for finance. And once they've done that, then they're going to have the ability where they can put in a credit card, they can pay a deposit, and they can buy their build project online with the confidence to know that it does fit, it does meet the setback requirements, it's in compliance with the rules and regulations from the city and the county. And so this whole process can be so fast and a salesperson does not even need to be involved. Has anyone here purchased a car online? No one? Oh yeah, okay, we have a few. I purchased my first car online a couple of years ago. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous about it. The whole experience of going out and walking a car lot. I mean, I live in Southern California. The car lots are literally acres and acres of cars. So I went ahead and I chose the model. I added the specifications. I priced it out online. I went through financing. I got a proof of financing, set up the payments. And next thing you know, my new car pulled up outside my house on a trailer. It was backed off a trailer, and it was exactly everything that I expected. This is not new to be able to order products online. It's certainly new for the housing industry, and we believe that we're a pioneer in that way. But 5 years ago, this was new for the car industry. 2 years ago, it was still relatively new for the auto industry. So we believe that we're changing all of that. So by solving the problem, by asking, can I technically and legally build this product? Is it feasible? What will it look like? What will it look like when it's sited on my lot? Can I afford it? Can I get financing? Is it something that fits within my budget? And if all of those questions are answered, if you're able to do all of that through the Can I Build platform, through your builder, then once you have all those questions answered, then at that point, you're able to hit the Buy Now button and you can purchase your home online. So we believe that we're solving those problems, and at the same time, we're on a mission. Our mission is to revolutionize the traditional construction sales process into an instant point of sale. Thank you, everyone. Any questions?
Are you creating your own database, or are you picking up from the municipalities what they have?
So we're getting information from a lot of areas. We're getting the information from municipalities, from local, state, federal governments, for example, FEMA, flood mapping. But we're also, using GIS mapping and AI technology as well. So it's kind of answer all of the above. Some municipalities are very good at giving out information. For example, where I live in California, very easy to obtain information, and others are not. In that case, we're actually physically contacting and going direct to get the information we need.
We found out in our county the wetlands maps are from the 70s.
Yes.
And they're totally inaccurate, and so you still have to go out and get a survey done.
Yes, that's correct, and that happens a lot. Matter of fact, that picture I showed you of Florida, they were telling me that that particular subdivision and that site was not in a floodplain. So when I proved to them that it was, they walked off to that meeting with this new information because the developer was telling them, hey, don't worry about it. You don't need to elevate the homes because we're not in a floodplain. We were able to prove very quickly with a couple of clicks of a mouse that it was in a floodplain.
Nick Coubray, CEO of Howick, is the driver of the company's pursuit of innovation. He is the third generation of the Coubrays to champion this family-owned business that has been involved in framing technology and industry development since his late teens. After earning his stripes on the shop floor assembling machines, Nick went on to head Howick's UK office for 7 years, laying the groundwork which established the UK and Europe as Howick's largest export markets. He has also spent significant time with US-based customers and has taken the lead in a number of collaborative R&D projects, which eventually became customer feedback-led standard features across the industry. Nick has developed a deep understanding of the global construction industry and technology across Howick's global user base. From simple construction projects to high-tech installations, his focus now is on driving Howick's team to continue to evolve technologies for better building and in advocating for more efficient and sustainable construction practices throughout the industry. Nick lives with his wife and 3 children in Auckland, New Zealand. When he is not busy with family life supporting his children's activities, Nick likes to experiment with various creations using his 3D printer. It's my honor to introduce Nick Coubray.
So what I'm going to talk about today is 3 things, really. One is a really bugbear of mine, waste in the construction industry. Then some of the stuff that we're doing in software that's coming shortly. And then lastly, I'll show some of the other products that we make that are not framing but associated to framing, and some that aren't associated with framing. So the thing that really annoys me is waste. And when you think of construction, this is your typical thought. It's this sort of thing, or it's people standing around doing nothing. But there's actually a lot more to it than that. So a good example, so construction is probably one of the biggest generators of waste in the world. The traditional construction for certain is. And it's up to sort of 30%. So if you think of gypsum board, for instance, and that's one that we've been looking at quite hard in New Zealand. So what happens is you buy a lot more than you need because you don't know what you need because the site's not organised and there's all that sort of fun stuff going on. So you get to the end of the job and you might have 10 sheets, you might have half a pallet load left. So they've introduced this great recycling scheme where you pay the manufacturer to take it away, recycle it and sell it back to you. So again, wouldn't it be better just to do it right in the first place and not have all this extra? I mean, you're going to have a couple of sheets, but you're not going to have half a ton gypsum board. And it goes for just about everything on the site. So, for instance, steel stud frame. So your traditional stud frame, stud and track comes to site in bundles and then someone goes and puts it together. So when we look at this, you've got transport to site. You've got reviewing the details of what you're now going to be building on site. Cutting and measuring parts and measuring out your layouts. Screwing them all together. The time it takes to actually sort and build those elements. Then you've got any delays because something didn't go right, which inevitably it does because you haven't planned. You've got all the waste and offcuts that then need to be taken away again. So there's all these waste things that just build up to a massive cost. So now you compare it to our telescopic stud, and there's a few examples. There's some to the back and there's some at the front here. So it's made of 3 sections out of one machine, and the idea is it telescopes up and down and side to side. We can regenerate different shapes. So that planning is still important, but it's not as important because you've got some flexibility, because every building is not what it appears. So you still got the transport to get it there. You don't have the plans because it's actually designed in the factory and made before you get there. There's no need to measure it because it's accurate. It's designed accurate and it's made accurate. You have to try to get it wrong. There's no cutting on site because it's telescopic. It all fits inside itself. You still have to screw it together a little bit because it has to go together. It's a hell of a lot faster. You don't have any delays because the panels are flexible. You don't have the waste you have to remove just from site because it's inside the panel, and that can be designed to be very flexible, so you can have a much bigger and smaller panel, or it can be designed so you have just enough for those little inaccuracies, maybe a couple of inches, so you can take waste out that way. So that's a whole lot better than a skip full of materials and trucks and taking things to and from site. So an example of this is a building we've done that Hamish has worked on in Auckland. It's 1 Queen Street. It was a 5-star hotel and then an office tower on top of it. 150,000 square foot building, so right in downtown central Auckland, probably one of the worst places to get to and from. So we did this all telescopic panels on small trailers with a utility vehicle to tow these trailers in rather than big trucks. All the panels squashed down and they went in the service elevators up on the building, so there was no crane on site for any of our work. But one of the big things about this building was built in 1972. It's a fairly old office building that they've now turned into an intercontinental hotel, and it's Deloitte's new offices, so high specification finishes. So the telescopic panels were one of the things that helped them. They reduced the embodied carbon versus the new building, because the plan was knock it down, build a new building. Retrofitting this building reduced the carbon by 50% versus the new building, which is huge when you think about it, because there's a lot of these old buildings that we can refit. So the other thing on it was that the install of the framing, because it was telescopic, was 60% quicker than what they'd allowed for their traditional stud and track build. So again, we're showing complexity, a bit like Scott's saying. It's complex, but it's not complex, and that's where some of the real savings come too. So this is a typical sort of fit out, double T concrete flooring system. You've got a fire stop it. So normally doing stud and track, we got the customer to estimate it for us. He said 45 minutes to an hour to put that up. We went away and we made these little frames as modules, they're 10 foot long, and they're adjustable in multiple directions, up on a scissor lift, installed in 2 minutes. So the labour waste is what we're really saving, because you can't get contractors. And this was built during COVID times, and they were only allowed 2 people per floor as part of the government restrictions. So they still got this building up super fast. Same thing again, this is one of our other products, Strut, for your mechanical support services. So the one you have on this side is, we're running traditional 6 metre lengths and bundling them up. They go to site and people chop them with saws and drill holes in them and just traditional manual work. On this side, we're making them to length like the framing machine. It is the same machine in both because we supply both ways out of New Zealand, but the whole idea is about 30% of that strut, again, is waste because they have to cut it, they have to align holes. You want to make a 4-foot piece with a hole at 2 inches from each end, we can do that really easy. And you can make 10,000 of them and they're all the same. So most of these commercial fit outs, the stuff is repeat, 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 but it's being done wrong. So again, waste, it's everywhere, it drives me nuts. We also do back-to-back strut. So thinking of the same thing, so product like this. Traditionally, this is black steel, not galvanised. It's spot welded, and then it's hot dip galvanised, which is a slow and expensive process. We can use pre-galv material and the riveting machine that we've developed, which is as strong as a spot weld, to put it together. So we can do them full lengths, partial lengths, with holes in them, without holes in them, and build up different elements But we're really saving, again, we're saving time. We're saving that 2 weeks it takes to take that product and get it welded by a certified welder, and then get it hot dip galvanized, and then get it back, and then cut it to length. You know, we can do straight off the machine and straight to these processes. While there's an investment in machinery, the back end saving is huge. That is traditionally used where you need high load capacity. Same thing in the mechanical electrical space, cable trays. So traditional way of making a cable tray, which you see here, is it's a press brake, it's 2-man. They carry the sheet across, they put it in a press brake, they then take it out, turn it around, feed it back in. It's about an 8-minute process when we timed it for this customer. This machine, we feed the blanks in, and in 45 seconds, you've got a fully finished cable tray, and we can do it in any size you want. So there's the opportunity there to go a bit further and do a sheeting punching line, and you can then make any length you want to order. So it's these little things that the industry needs to move forward. Now, the customer we built this for, it's been installed for 3 years now. It runs 24/7. And he's completely taken over the whole market in New Zealand of this sort of product because no one can compete with them. So I mentioned software. One of the big things we're working on, and it's coming fairly soon, is our customer portal. So it will allow customers to log on, see the status of their machine, is there any service requirements, any manuals, any assembly drawings and all that sort of good stuff. And then we can do service notifications, and if there's faults, we can do support tickets direct from the machine to us. The next part of that is obviously production data. Everybody wants production data, a matter of understanding what people actually want to do with it and how they want to use it. But our aim is to collect all the data and then through our cloud platform offer out APIs. So we can work with StrucSoft's Onyx, we can work with ERP systems. So you can track your coils through the machines, you can track your jobs and all those sorts of things. And actually then, because we give an API just with the raw data, it should be simple to integrate into multiple different systems. It's always been our kind of philosophy is we want to be open so that you can do what you need to do with it. As soon as we close it, it makes it really hard for everybody. So this is on all the Gen 6 machines that are currently shipping. We'll get this, and the older Gen 5 machines will have some limited features because of hardware issues and just older software. So that's what we're working towards. But for the future, and we're looking long term here, and it ties into some of the things we've been talking about today. So you could have all these machines networked. So we could have either an opt-in network or a dependent network for a company, and you've got machines all over the country. So say there is one of these situations where you are in California and you want to build some buildings here in Tampa, and Wolf's opted into the system, you'll be able to log in and say, I would like this job done, who can do this job? And they can accept the job if they've got production capacity. You can send all your design files or get them to do design files. So it gives opportunities for production as a service. So eventually there could be a host of machines all around the country, and if you want to do a job in this location, you can get the parts made. It opens up other features too. Say you've got a framing machine but not a floor joist machine. You could use this system to just order the floor joists for your job. So it gives a lot of flexibility, which is quite good. And also we developed this a little bit with one of our customers in Australia, and they are in 5 different locations and they use it for failover. So say there's an issue, staff are off sick and they can't do it, or they've run out of coil, or they've had a breakdown, they can bump a job to the next nearest factory. If it has to go out today, they can reshuffle and reorder. So it's quite an interesting process we can put together with this. And this is a longer term goal, and we're quite keen to work with everybody who wants to work with us on it as to what is the ideal way this should work. What makes it flexible? What is the benefit we can get you out of it? So that covers the software side of it. Now, we do a huge amount of things with customers all over the world. So we've got all sorts of weird and wonderful machines we do up. This is a small selection. But one of the things we notice, we go and watch people putting frames together. And when they want to put the blocking in, out come the hammers or the bits of wood or all these things where they just brute force things together. So we developed a little table with a pusher on it. So we can build the frame and push those panels together. We can actually also flip those fins around and pull the panel apart if you have to pull it apart, because that's where most of the damage happens if you ever have to do things. Little things like this, like it's not full automation, but it makes a huge difference to the guys assembling stuff. It takes all the load off the people moving studs around and things. So really good with the heavier gauges. Another product we developed internally for ourselves is our tipper bin, and we've got one on the fork truck over here if anyone actually wants to have a look at it. So we did it originally for our CNC machines because we couldn't find a robust system for moving all the swarf to the scrap bins. So typically what you end up with is a 44-gallon steel drum and some sort of complex method of tipping it, and the drum gets damaged and then it falls in the bin and it's just generally a nightmare. These are about double the volume because they're square. We can skid them round on the floor with a handle, we load them on the fork truck and tip them straight in the bin. And we use them for different materials too. So we use them for aluminium, steel and brass and other things that we're machining, so we can actually itemize the things for the right bins. So we use the smaller bins on all the new framing machines as well. So if anyone's got one recently, they'll have some of these bins. Feedback's been pretty good because they're really simple. You can just slide them out of the way and slide the next one in and carry on production. Again, a tiny savings. You're saving that 15 minutes where the guy's off emptying bins, because we have enough of them in our factory for the CNC that there's always a spare one, so we can pull 20 out and empty them in half an hour and then bring them all back in again. You've probably noticed the Excalibur product here. So this is something we've been working on for a while, and Warren down in Tampa is doing a lot of development on this for us. So we were looking for bigger buildings and how we could do it. And this gets you into the structural steel space, but you get a few benefits from it because it's lighter weight. It's pre-galvanized, so there's no painting, there's no welding, and it's an engineered system. So we can do spans of up to about 100 feet, depending on the combination of the beams. We also make all the purlins and all the bits. So we're trying to systemize some of these big box buildings that other people are doing. There's a whole lot of things we can do with it that are quite clever. So this particular building was one of the first prototypes we built. It's about 12,000 square feet. And the main structure with the crane was stood in about 4 hours. So we moved pretty quick on some of these things. It's a product that's in development, and it's something we're working on to try and get the finer points right, because there's still a few things, but it goes up well. We've done probably 10 buildings in New Zealand now, varying from quite smaller buildings up to these sort of sizes. But the biggest thing was speed. So the guys in the building next door went out in the morning in their trucks. They came back at the end of the day and there was a building there. Now, with your traditional hot-rolled structures, that just doesn't happen. Another product we've had for many years and we've been working quite hard with recently is our SpeedFloor product, which is a composite concrete flooring system. So this is a good example of where some savings come. So it's a pour in situ system in this particular case. This building was designed, and we're pricing it up at the moment, with a pour in situ slab system, a traditional build. So 8-story apartment, 160,000 square feet. There's about $750,000 worth of our SpeedFloor system in it. But we saved $9 million on the foundation because of the lightweight nature of the building. So we've gone from a 1-foot concrete slab to a 4-inch concrete slab. Because we use the steel where it's strong, we use the concrete where it's strong. It's a great composite system. So this one will be an interesting project to go through because there's other savings there as well. We can go up a floor every 3 days, and we're pulling weight out of those floors as well. It's not unique in how it works. There are other products, but they're fabricated and they're big, heavy welded products, where this is a roll-formed product, and it has all those advantages again. On the back of that, we've got our new system, which is a precast one. So we've got some patents on this that are currently pending, which we're just about finished with. But again, similar sort of idea. We can precast these floors in the factory, and we design them all around a truck width. So we go long, but we stick to standard truck width for movements. We've developed a system where they butt together and we grout them and fire grout them. But because of the way they're built and the steel strength in them, we don't really get any deflection. So that there over, I think that was a 6-meter floor, we had less than 1 millimeter deflection with 1.5 ton center load on it. And we can control it because we're controlling the steel bit that makes it work. The concrete, we actually don't really care what happens in the middle of the concrete, we care about the ends where the steel are. So it's a really interesting product again that we're developing. So just to kind of give you a feel for some of the things we do that are not framing. So this we see a huge advantage to replacing hollow core, and we can do wall panels with it, we can do roof panels with it. You know, it's still a heavy product, but it's a much lighter heavy product. And the last one I'll show you is, again, another little weird thing we built. We made a 30-ton servo press for a customer. And the idea for this was, it's for prototyping and small, medium production runs. So it's a fully servo-controlled, basically like a framing machine as far as it's controlled. We can control pressure and stroke and speed. So for doing small production cycles, doing all of those really intriguing little brackets and things you want to run 500 of for a job, we can make a tool to fit in this press to do that. And it can have pneumatic ejectors, hydraulic ejectors, it can have a decoiler with it if you want, so it can become a mini production line. So in this particular one, we've got hurricane washers up the top. So they actually, what this customer does is they will use the same roof sheet that they're running through their roll former and make matching washers for color match. There's a drum for a roller door and a bracket in this one as well. So we can just swap these tools out and do all sorts of interesting things in them. So that just gives you a flavor of some of the other stuff we're doing. And I've just got to say, it's been great to have everybody here and all these great thoughts and interesting presentations. I hope that everybody goes away with lots of things to think about. And I just want to thank Cindy and the team for putting all this together. It's been a huge amount of work to pull this together, but I think well worth it, and I hope you all agree.
And a huge thank you to all of the other sponsors for the event. Another shout out to Argos, Aerosmith, StrucSoft, Simpson Strong Tie. Thank you to all of you for making this event happen as well.